and this offer shall have to be renegotiated after June 2024.
And as floods continue to hit the nations, Murang'a residents have been urged to be on the lookout for earth movements as the rains continue to pound most parts of the county. County Director of Meteorological Department, that is Anthony Kenya, said soils are already saturated. This, he said, has led to mudslides in some areas, especially in the upper zones that are prone to landslides. This event comes as the Met Department has announced that the country will experience heavy rains in the next 6 days. Elsewhere, about 23 counties have been affected by floods due to heavy rains. The Kenya Red Cross in a statement said the affected regions are Nairobi, Coast, Central, Western, Highlands, Rift Valley, Nyanza, Ukambani and the Northeast. In Kirinyaga County, affected residents have called on the government to intervene.
Kuna mara mbili sasa maji yamejaa yakafurika hadi choo zimekuja juu. Sisi hata watu wafungui duka hapa sababu maji yamekuja yakanjaa. Tumechoma, hatufungui kazi. Kila wakati ni kutoa maji kwa biashara. Sasa tukiomba kutengenezwa hizi mitaro.
Kulingana na mahali hapo mwenye kumekaa, ukiwa na gari wewe utafuka hapo. Sasa mpaka ngojee maji rudi chini. Hata venye nimefika hapo ni kulingana na vile nilikuwa na tinga. Kama singekuwa na tinga in Homa Bay, the county government has announced plans to build walls along major river banks to control flooding. And finally, 2 directors of Amazement Park in Uasin Gishu County, where 5 2023 KCPE pupils died during a fun day, and a teacher have been charged in court. The 2, Nixon Kaimur and his wife Beatrice Kigan, were arraigned alongside Arab Moi Primary Deputy Head Teacher Judy Chesang. Appearing before Eldoret Chief Magistrate Maureen Kese, the 3 answered to charges of negligence resulting in loss of lives contrary to the law. The trio pleaded not guilty to the charges and were released on a 1 million shillings bond each or a surety of 200,000 shillings cash bill. The case will be mentioned on Monday. That's the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on Spice FM.
You tune into Kenya's biggest conversation. My name is Ramanyan.
Amen.
Amen.
So 1 hour is over?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
It gets over.
Can you imagine
in 20 minutes?
What the big boys have also done?
I'm very proud of myself.
When you understand about partnership in politics, it's like the way marriage is these days. When you're looking for a wife, you're like, oh, you know, maybe you can help me pay you for fees as I pay for the rent.
Why should you have a lioness living in your bedroom? I have to tell you a story. I went for a prayer meeting, which was called for the spouses of candidates for senators and governors. And when I got to the gate, the lady who was the secretary, she refused to, she's telling me, no. Leo tunataka wa mama. Leo ni wa mama. I'm telling her, no. She said, no, sio siku yenu. And I thought, there's a problem here, you know, because if it was a man, but this was a lady.
It will be called First Ladies until you change the name.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Revenge is for children. It's for kids. When you grow up, you realize the best revenge you can take on somebody is to ignore them.
Now, I'm just new in politics. It is not everybody's cup of tea. That's why some people come in one term and that's it for them.
Political parties in this country do not have ideologies, whether luring or otherwise.
And that is the effect of corruption.
Any time an offense occurs anywhere in the country, it is the job of the Inspector General to look into it. Whether it's corruption, whether it's murder, whether it's petty, that is his job.
If we have chosen to be a corrupt nation, then we produce corrupt leaders. Everything then becomes chaotic that you cannot be able to change a nation.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
This is one of the hottest show that we can ever miss any morning, and it's a show that really gives a real situation in the Situation Room.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you guys so much. Nice meeting you. And even beautiful in person more than in photos.
Say that again.
Character is like pregnancy. You cannot hide it. You know, people hiding here and there, you know, but after 2, 3 months, 5 months, now you realize, so that is why the attitude that you were showing us, you're pregnant.
It's like what my grandmother would say. You cannot pickpocket a naked man. How's that? It's communal, isn't it?
No comment.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
It's Wednesday, in the middle of the week. Where are we? What's happening? Yes, I know, everywhere is underwater and it's very difficult to get through. There's already traffic on Mombasa Road this morning, and why is that? Because the road, where it used to be a road yesterday, is now a river. And so that means that you're going to go a lot slower than you normally would as you're trying to get into the city today. We can't see it as really popping off, but we know that that is going to slow down, folks. And then as you get to, excuse me, Maradima Junction heading out into the city, it also is going to slow you down a little bit because there is water everywhere. As you're coming off a thicker superhighway, not much happening right now as you're getting through towards the CBD. It's looking good on Langata Road. Remember, they've told us when you see the water, you want to avoid Rilo Dingaway if you're in Nairobi, and you also want to avoid Links Road in Nyeri if you're in Mombasa. So let's watch out for those two areas because we know that the rain came down yesterday and has flooded everywhere. All right, as you're coming out of Westlands, coming off Waiyaki Way, not much happening here. It's not cooking just yet, but as we get into Wednesday, we'll see that quite a lot will pop off. We're going to watch out for that, and we're going to need you to help as well so that we can spread the word to folks. We'll talk on SpiceFM KE on X hashtag The Situation Room.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
11 after 6. Good morning. How are you? I know, like we said, it's underwater and things are looking crazy. I too almost swam into the office this morning. It was interesting to see that what you think will not reach you will eventually reach you, and you will start to experience what others have been experiencing. The heavens have opened, the rain is not relenting, and it's doing the business really wherever it is that you are. Good morning, CT.
Good morning, Do.
How are you?
I am very well, thank you.
You're dry.
As in, have I been rained on? No.
No.
Have I walked in water? No.
Okay.
On it, yes.
You've walked on water?
Well,
You're
yeah.
like Peter.
No, Peter tried.
He tried and then he lost sight.
No, he lost it.
He lost focus.
He focused on the waves instead of focusing on what he had already done successfully.
And then he started to drown.
Well, there to sink.
Yeah. Man.
There's a lot of water.
There's water everywhere.
Yes. At my official residence, there was water. As I got into the vehicle, there was water. As I arrived at work, there was water. As I got into this building, now there was a lake.
Where?
Yes.
There was proper
water everywhere. Yes.
Not a drop to drink.
There's that little detail, yes.
And then people want to start singing, wade in the water, wade in the water, children, wade in the water, God's gonna trouble the water. Hey, you just might too. You just might trouble the water at this rate. Yeah, so there's a lot that's going on at the same time, and you're not really sure how to wade through it. Well, let's see. We'll have a look at some of these conversations as we get through today. Okay, so quite a number of stuff lined up for today. Let's have a look at what some of those things will be. All right, we're going to start off the conversation today at 7 a.m. and we'll be looking at the change of thought. So we've had that some members of parliament were very vehement about what they thought about the finance bill. A couple of weeks later, perhaps this has changed. Change of thought. What it portends for the legislature. And we'll be having that conversation with Wakili Edward Moiru, who is the MP for Gatanga constituency. Morio, rather, who is the MP for Gatanga constituency. That conversation we will have at 7 o'clock. And then there's a transgender conversation that is not new. It's been making the rounds everywhere. And we'll be having that at 8 o'clock with a number of people. Issues surrounding transgender persons in Kenya. There are issues, there are transgender persons, and we'll be having that conversation about what it means and exactly how we are going to navigate those three. So those are the conversations that we'll be having today. And then finally at 9 a.m. we'll talk with the chairperson of the Youth Enterprise Development Fund. Fatma Barayan will be with us, and we'll be talking about the hidden treasure of the Youth Enterprise Development Fund. It exists. Do people use it? Do people apply? Well, we're going to find all of that out when she joins us at 9 o'clock. So a number of things we're going to discuss today, and some of them have big question marks already around them even before we get into it, but we will, as we normally do. We now will take a quick break and we'll look at weather and what that has in store for us today. And we'll come back and say hello to you. We can see you guys already trickling in this morning. So let's talk as we get into it. Okay, it's 14 minutes after 6.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Good morning, and I love your show.
Thank you.
Having come from a Kikuyu radio background, I migrated to Spice because of the content.
I was born in a slum, but somehow I got a break in life. So sometimes when you see the sweating coming out because of the passion and whatever it is, behind the noise, there are people, and we share the same umbilical cord.
It shouldn't be like that. I am so disappointed. We used to tell Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga that he's doing politics of conmanship, and even President Uhuru Kenyatta, serikali hii ndio iko na conmanship ya hali ya juu. You cannot promise people that you reduce tax, then you double.
In politics, there is the issue of trust. For you to turn around and then stab the same people who gave you that trust, there is no other level of dishonesty. And hii mambo utaona dunia tu.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
The weather with Spice FM.
Cloudy and rainy conditions in Nairobi this morning, currently at 17. We'll see highs of 22 and lows of 16. It's cloudy at 16 in Nakuru with highs of 24, and we'll see highs of 25 in a cloudy Nyeri at 18. The rain is coming down at 16 in Eldoret, highs of 23 and lows of 15. And we're looking into a rainy Mombasa as well at 25. We'll see highs of 30. Into Malindi, cloudy at 25 with highs of 31. And Kisumu is cloudy at 21 with highs of 27. Kakamega cloudy at 20 with highs of 27 and lows of 18. We're looking into a rainy Kampala at 20 with highs of 26, while Dar es Salaam this morning is cloudy at 25. It'll go to highs of 30. Into Johannesburg, it's clear at 17 with highs of 28, while Mogadishu at 26. The sun will be up, going to highs of 33, and Addis Ababa is partly sunny at 14 with highs of 24. Clear conditions in Lagos at 27 with highs of 34, and Kinshasa raining at 25. We'll see highs of 31 and lows of 24. Looking into a sunny Beijing Wednesday afternoon at 19, we'll see highs of 25 and lows of 11, while looking into Paris at 8 degrees is cloudy with highs of 10. London is cloudy at 6 degrees with highs of 10, and round things off in New York at 11 degrees Tuesday night. Coming into Wednesday, we'll see highs of 17 and lows of 10.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Okay, good morning, everybody. We can see you guys trickling in. Are you tuned in on Facebook? Are you tuned in on YouTube? Welcome you into the room this morning. Let's say hello to you, shall we? Okay. Yeah, who's new? There's some people today that have never been in the room and are checking in for the first time. Henry Colum, good morning. You're tuned in from Alabama. We've never heard from you today. Very good to have you in the room today. Justice A, you say we spice up your days. Very good to have you in this morning. And we just want to say, for folks who tune in every day and we don't hear you or see you, or those who've just stepped into the room for the first time, karibuni sana, big welcome to you. And thank you for being here this morning. Really, really great to have you in the room. Joel Odondi, we see you say good morning. Kansas is well represented. Always a great pleasure to join you and engage in very important issues. Thanks for being here as well. So George Gashoiri, great show. Thank you very much. Looking forward to that. Raphael Kige is also tuned in. Good morning, my factual people. Mvua Imenoga. What's that? What's Noga City?
Yani.
Okay, it's like that.
It's
proper. Okay. Yeah, Mvua is doing
it is, yes.
Okay, Mvua imenoga. It has noggered for real. Evans Ntabo says good morning, everybody. He's greeting people who are here and those who are also not here. Fantastic. Ndu, CT, Eric, Yego, Edna, Charlotte. Okay, not even Edna. Nanya Boke, Mukopoa. We love you all. Have a wonderful day. Thank you so much. Jeremiah Wanjala says good morning, guys. It's been a minute. Yes, it has. And even for those who've not logged in for a while but are coming back in again, Karibu Sana. And Gore, good morning, my beautiful people. Chamge to you, sister. The Kikombe is tuned in, sending you dryness, life jackets, and logical flow of ideas in this not so new world order. Indeed. Monica Oile, we see you this morning. Today I've heard about plastic rain in Ottawa. Don't know what that is. Do tell. Robert Mbogo is tuning from Mombasa, and Jimmy Gakio says good morning to the Spicy team. Great to have you guys here as well. Good morning, Situation Room, and happy Wednesday. Yes, Chelsea was done to the thing. Now, Deep State says we should stop harassing guests. Okay, Deep State, you want to turn over and wake up again nicely? Jimmy Gakio says good morning. Evans Langat says good morning as well. Tuned in from Thika. Alex Asige says he's tuned in from Mount Kenya. And Mashari and Jeru is also tuned in this morning. Very good to have you guys in the room. George Okoth says good morning. Hello, my peeps, everybody. Oganya Malala also says good morning, Team Spice. Thank you for being here this morning. Abito the lady, we say Sikun Jema to you too. Thank you very much. Rain is a natural occurrence. As a country, we cannot control it. However, Sakaja has done nothing to keep the situation. Truth be told. Ooh. Joe Mogai is also tuned in this morning and says, the Spice crew, good morning. In unison, we are lamenting about the ongoing rains. In a few months, we'll be lamenting about a drought. Who bewitched us? That's a question, isn't it? Jennifer Atanyi says good morning. And Emmanuel Mugendi is also tuned in. Vintage Buddies, yes, indeed. Tibbs Muge, good morning to you. Margaret Panjohi, we also see you. Everybody trickling into the room this morning. Everybody here. Ndongo Karaoke, can't stop to say hello to all of you. Leon Kunai, Amenya Larry, Edwin Makua, Sylvester Kiango, and Agola. Hey, otherwise, you're here, sister. Good morning to everybody. Always a pleasure to have you here. These conversations make sense when you are here, so we never ever take that for granted. Karibuni sana. All right, we are in the country of Congo, the Republic of Congo. Sindio?
Otherwise known as Congo Brazzaville.
Otherwise
known as.
Okay. What's our problem for today, CT?
Well, this is interesting. Kokende liboso eza. Kokoma te. Yes.
Kokende
liboso.
Kokende liboso.
Eza. Kokoma te.
Where?
To go ahead doesn't mean you have arrived.
Okay.
Yeah, you just keep moving forward. Yes.
It doesn't mean you've reached.
No. It just means you've moved forward.
Okay, you've moved forward. Doesn't mean you have. You could be ahead of me, but doesn't mean you have arrived.
No. You only need to watch a marathon to understand how this works out.
Yeah.
Some fellows who at the start, how be yo man, give it 5 minutes. You wonder where is that?
What just happened?
What's that person we saw not too long ago? Yeah.
Indeed, that's a good one. You never know. At the end of the race is when you know actually what is going on, isn't
That's
it?
when you know what is, yes, because that is actually at the end of the race. That is when you know who has arrived and who hasn't. Yes.
Okay. Now, let's look at some of the headlines, shall we? It'll be interesting to see what folks have to say about that particular proverb as we go through it later on today, but okay. On the front page of the Standard this morning, doctors' deal breaker. A disagreement over what medical interns should be paid sunk a return to work formula negotiated by striking doctors and the government, with authorities saying they have agreed on all but one of 19 demands by health practitioners, extending Kenyan suffering. Yikes. There have been a number of things said by a number of people. Felix Koske, who is the head of public service, said the doctors' union's new demand is all or nothing out of court settlement. The continued stand will continue to deny millions of Kenyans life-saving treatment. Susan Nakumicha, who is the health cabinet secretary, said following refusal to call off the strike, we have instructed council to go to court and file the status report as to what we had agreed on as a return to work formula. And finally, Davjia Teller, who is the KMPDU Secretary General, says, dear government, the doctors are saying that since you have publicly said that you conceded to 18 out of our 19 demands, kindly take back the 18 and give us the one, is what they are saying. Also on the front page of the Standard, flooding havoc as heavy rains pound the country. Kenya's unpreparedness in the face of heavy rains pounding various parts of the country has exposed with raging floodwaters, submerging houses, cutting off roads and damaging millions worth of property. Rot at City Hall. You are a letdown, UDA MPs warn Governor Sakaja. The British are going to begin to engage the Maasai. There are questions about how they should deal with settlements for them, and that is beginning to talk somehow, somewhere. Pain of expensive loans is also one of the tickers, and Azimio wants an independent Ogola inquiry. Azimio leaders demand a parliamentary and both a parliamentary inquiry and a judicial inquest into the helicopter crash that killed General Francis Ogola and 9 others. And they're insisting on this. It's also what is on the front page of The Nation. Azimio demands Ogola inquest. Opposition leaders yesterday upped the ante on calls for thorough investigations to unearth the cause of the tragic helicopter crash that claimed the lives of Chief of Defence Forces Francis Ogola and 9 others last week, with a fresh push to set up a public judicial inquiry. Underwater, Kenyans in agony amidst heavy floods. Oof, people flood, or rather wade through water to get from point A to point B. Machakos County, specifically in Syokimau, areas that have been submerged in water, and is among scores of families in the estate who've been affected for the last 3 days. So they've been affected, but the rain is still coming down. So this literally compounds the issue. Okay, the judiciary is one of the tickers today. Chebukati fails to make cut in hiring of appellate judges. Former IEBC chairman Wafula Chebukati's bid to join the judiciary as an appeal judge has hit a dead end after missing out on the Judicial Service Commission shortlist that was released yesterday. An obituary. Adios, Washington Akumu, business writer sent by the gods of journalism. Washington Akumu, who died in Nairobi yesterday, has always been a reserved person, and even after he became business editor at the Daily Nation, he did not fancy the limelight that high positions brought. Okay, up there we're also seeing how Homa Bay County is winning the war against malaria, and cabinet rules out increased salaries for intern doctors.
Increased.
What did I say? Has ruled out increased salaries for intern doctors. Yeah, so for them, they said that's not going to happen. So the talks have essentially collapsed once again with the doctors. That's what it's looking like. CT, what have you got on the headlines?
What I have on the headlines, in the Star, top right-hand corner, in Till Green. Mobile phones on the move. Multi-agency team combs villages for copter crash victims valuable. The story is on page 10. There is a terrible habit that Kenyans have. When there is an accident, whether it's a road accident, but so long as there are people, the first people on site usually are not there to help rescue, they're here to help rob you. If it's your vehicle, they will enter the vehicle while pretending to help you get out of the car, get out of danger. They're busy taking whatever they come across.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, yeah.
It's very unfortunate, but this seems to have been the case with that copter crash.
Oh my.
Yes, it appears that that terrible habit was practiced on that particular day. So, DCI, it's not just DCI, military intelligence, people, they are looking for these properties. So now, those who took those properties, they forget, you take a phone.
They'll find you.
They will find you. They will find you. Right. Again, in the Star, we also have the story of the veterinary journalist Akumu dies after gallant fight for life. He suffered a heart attack on the spot. Mystery of 600 million pipeline land sold at 7 million. The story is on page 8. Okay? Why is there mystery?
Because they don't know.
Well, lawmakers probe circumstances under which the 47-acre parcel of land was sold below market rate. KPC did not provide documents supporting the disputing at the disposal of the land. By the way, this story goes back to 2007. It's not that it happened yesterday. All right?
Yep.
Eldoret siblings tussle over father's estate 20 years on. The story is on page 9. Okay? Because gay accuses her step-siblings of treating them as strangers. But this story of inheritance and understanding the laws that came into being when we promulgated the 2010 Constitution is still bothering most people.
Pourquoi?
Well, the traditional way of managing property, even inheritance, women were normally disinherited.
Yeah.
Unless you're a very forward-looking parent. It is the men who tended to inherit. Girls married, first of all, if you're married, now that you're done for.
Finished. You no longer, in fact, now you belong to somebody.
You belong somewhere else, you go there and ask for land. If you're not married, who told you not to get married?
That's your problem.
So, yes, but with the 2010 Constitution, unfortunately, for those who think that way, everyone is entitled. Everyone.
Very good.
Yes, so this everyone is entitled is beginning to cause a problem with some people. Yes, who are unwilling to move. Wrangles, proposed law does not solve power play between chair and the CEO. Fixing IEBC, experts call for strong agency. The agency is strong, kwani? New bill abolishes vice chair's post, raises quorum to 5 and forces chair to consult.
Okay.
Why? All these things. We really legislate, don't we?
Yes, we do. We do. Okay, so in that fine way, how about we take a break, look at what's going on with traffic and weather, and then weather and traffic, and then we can come back and continue to look into the headlines a little bit here and there, shall we? There's quite some going on around the country, that's for sure. But look, there are many stories. I'm just looking at page 2 and 3 of the Standard today, and there's quite a number of things that we're like, okay, so what exactly is going on here? But let's take a look at see that, and then we'll come back to that in a short while. Okay, we'll take a look at weather, and then we'll be back right after this.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to...
All right, so what's going on the streets this morning? Traffic is starting to build on the Thika Superhighway, but again, not too crazy. Just looking at traffic that's coming in further ahead, and it's coming in all the way from that Royal Junction as you then go through towards and approach Kasarani and then out towards Garden City Mall. We're not seeing any kind of drama right around Survey as we normally would right about now. Just a bit of a build-up coming through towards the Pangani Underpass, which interestingly enough, got some water under there as well, so folks are moving a little bit slower. At this juncture, there's not much coming off of Wayaki Way. A little bit of traffic as you enter into Westland. Langata Road is free, it's clear, not a problem here, but we'll see a build-up as you get onto Huru Highway, and that's just after the Nyeri Stadium roundabout out towards Haile Selassie. Okay, remember Mombasa Road, if you're coming in from Syokimau and you're approaching Mombasa Road and then heading out into the city, it's waterlogged, and this is coming in from the junction just before Cabanas and all the way through towards Imaradaima. A lot of water, so folks are going slower. Hazards are on. You want to use those so you make sure that you don't get into any deep puddles of water of which you do not know the depth. That's the warning for this morning. Let's keep an eye on things, and we'll talk on SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
Spice FM. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Page 4 and 5, rather page 2 and 3 of the Standard. There are many things that are going on at the same time, and this is coming from the from the water everywhere, and the questions about, so what's happening? If we had dealt with drainage issues, if we dealt with runoff issues, if we dealt with sewage issues, perhaps we would not be seeing the major flooding that we are seeing in different parts of the country. Remember, we had also been told, Red Cross told us, the Kenya Met has told us that we're getting into the time where the rains will increase, and we'll probably be seeing rains of 24 to 36 to 48 hours at a go, and so this compounds the issue. Now that happens, and then we get on to page 2 and 3 of the Standard, where we see how bill plans to tighten noose on sexual offenders. Governors reject revenue bill and demand 439.5 billion shillings allocation for next year, and they're saying, you know what, this one that you're giving us, forget it, we're not taking it, give us more and give it to us next year. DJ Joan Farmey's friend charged with the murder of the DCI officer, and that's what we're looking at. And 2 now demand control over late tycoon's estate. But let's look at this sexual offenders issue. The fight against sexual offences involving children and vulnerable groups has received a major boost after rights societies and parliamentarians launched the push to amend the law. The proposed amendments on the Sexual Offences Act are intended to put into consideration emerging crimes, trends and technology. Some of the suggested changes include prohibition of traditional dispute resolutions, barring foreigners who are sexual offenders from entering the country, making public a list of sexual offenders, as well as in limiting employability of convicts. The draft sexual offence amendment bill is being fronted by The Cradle, a child rights NGO. According to Executive Director Michael Wasonga, the Act was passed in 2006 and has had a lot of challenges and emerging cultural, social and technological issues. We didn't have people sharing inappropriate images in social media, or people blackmailing others while photos initially taken in good faith. Other amendments that are being proposed include establishment of police-run gender desks to public hospitals, establishment of safe houses for victims, as well as charging people who fail to report sexual offences. The draft also introduces grooming of children, which is not considered as an offence in the current Act. Grooming happens when someone builds a trusting relationship with a child in order to manipulate them. So sexual offense has been a big issue, and now when we look at how it does affect children, remember that there are very many conversations right now that are surrounding children. Close children's homes, get children back with their families, make sure that they go to school, make sure that they're not abused when they're under the care of family members, make sure that they're not working. There are very many conversations that are happening at the same time. The Sexual Offences Bill is trying to tighten some of these to make sure that children are actually protected. One of the things that we did discuss on one Justice Thursday conversation was having a list of sexual offenders, so that you know if this person is on this list, the likelihood of them doing this again hopefully would be reduced by putting them on that list. So it's interesting to see that the bill is still getting this much attention. Yep.
Fascinating, isn't it?
Well, I mean, I think it's something that needs to be done.
You know, there's something that has to be said about the water that we have everywhere.
Please do.
We knew this water was on its way. We knew the rains were going to be heavy. And clearly, we've been caught flat-footed. Because just as of this morning, the number of people who are marooned cannot move from their houses to get to their vehicles if they have vehicles. Now, if you can't get to your vehicle, now what about someone who has to move from their house to go to a bus stop to wait for a vehicle? What do they go through? Because this sort of rain and the levels that has risen to the water levels, these ones defy gumboots.
Looking at the pictures, and those are the pictures that we've been able to see, people are actually stuck in their houses, or people have had to leave their houses because the rain keeps coming. The flooding that we saw and that we've seen, so we're looking at certain areas, South C, South B, parts of Langata, and now we're also looking at Syokimau, which is already, some of these houses were built over a swamp. Okay.
So, they were?
Yeah. So that area that goes from Airport Road and that goes east, then in the general Mavoko Machakos direction, is over swampland. So in the very beginning, and this is where we talk about this bad man, in the very beginning, those houses, because we're looking at multiple structures, apartment buildings that go from the 1st to the 8th floor, and they're
first to the 8th floor.
Yeah, and there are about 16 of them. They were built over swampy land. They shouldn't have been built over that land in the first place. So they had started to sink, and they had sunk by about 2 inches. And remember,
2 inches is a lot.
When you're talking about a building, 2 inches is a lot. They had already begun to sink. So now imagine what happens when you're dealing with the large amounts of rain that we are seeing today. And so people's homes, you have waist deep water, knee deep water, and that's what's going on. Now, it doesn't mean that it rained today and that knee deep water is there and then we're fine. The knee deep water is there and it continues to rain. So what's happening?
When I look at some of these houses that clearly look like they resemble a picture of the city of Venice, okay, and you realize, Venice was planned that way.
Yeah.
So instead of roads or streets, they have canals.
Yes.
Okay, it was planned. Foundations were built. They knew,
bridges.
They knew what they were building on, and they knew they had to respect nature, and they did. And that is why the city has lasted for as long as it has. Now here we are. You are building. Forget riparian land. This is a swamp. Nature has done its thing, and that's why it is waterlogged. Then you have gone and decided waterlogged what you are going to build.
Yeah.
Now, if those are residences that people have bought, already they have a problem. Even when the rains subside, the buildings are not going to be the same.
What are you going to do?
No, they're not going to be the same.
No.
Because, if I may use the word, they'll be water infested.
What are you going to do? You've bought the house. The person who sold you the house is long gone. Are you going to say, well, I'm going to give this? Where are you going to go?
No willing buyer, willing seller.
Yeah.
The foundation of those houses are going to be affected. Everything about those houses will not be what it was before the rains. And at the end of the story, the human lives involved. Now that is a story of structures that exist and are solid. Now what about the non-permanent structures that we have? The informal settlements, as we call them. What about those ones?
No, they don't exist.
Yes, exactly.
They don't exist with this. With this? No.
It rains once and a whole wall is gone. And water, you are living with water inside your house.
I know that there's the accusation of always being pessimistic, but I think that certain things need to be said in a certain way.
No, where's the pessimism?
At all. Because it's just the reality of the situation.
Yes, where is the pessimism?
That you know what is going to happen, CT. And I think somebody said it here this morning. I think it was George Gashoiri who said this morning, he said, you know what? We're here lamenting about the rain, but you know what? The rain will stop.
It will stop.
The rain will stop at some point.
As it always does.
And it will be dry. And guess what is going to happen? We are going to forget about all of this. If they will sort out the drainage issue, temporary. And we're not saying this because we don't hope that things will be different. I say this personally so that it would maybe irk somebody or pinch somebody to actually say, you know what, guys, we can actually operate in a system whereby we continue to manage for the better. And I'm not saying manage like get along. I'm saying manage systems so that we actually do them right. So that in the event that there is a catastrophe, because this is a catastrophe, in the event that there is a catastrophe, the damage will not be so severe. And that is what you do by managing situations. That why must we wait until it is raining heavily to do something else? It's like saying it's raining heavily and now is when I want to go and start looking for an umbrella. My people say that you don't start looking for a black goat in the night. You don't. At all. I'm just saying, in case, you know. Now, in relation to that, UDA MPs have said the clouds are gathering and we have brought the word. You have let us down, UDA now tells Sakaja over the rot at City Hall. It is not well in Nairobi City or in Nairobi County. This is a message from the section of legislators both in the City County Assembly and the National Assembly. Elected on United Democratic Alliance party ticket, the MPs and MCAs expressed their concerns over the status of development in the city under the leadership of Johnson Sakaja. The politicians are accusing the current administration of failing to meet expectations of residents who overwhelmingly voted for the president's party in 2022. The lawmakers, led by Dagoretti South MP John KJ Kiarie, in a lengthy address invited investigative authorities to City Hall to probe alleged wanton graft. According to Kiarie, it is our observation that it is now the view of the majority of City County residents that Nairobi could be facing its worst leadership crisis at City Hall. He said the dream was that was sold during the campaigns of a city of order, dignity and opportunities for all has turned into the nightmare that Nairobi is becoming. Kiarie was flanked by Roy Sambu MP Augustine Kamande Mwafrika and Embakasi South's Benjamin Gadhiru, alias Major Donk, among several MCAs led by Nairobi South Ward Rep Waithera Shege, who has just been affirmed as party minority leader in the assembly. In their statement, they claimed the City Hall leadership is aloof. Nairobi City is drowning in the murky lakes of flowing sewage, estate buried in mountains of garbage, taps whistling to the tunes of dryness as storm waters flood our homes and businesses. About that for waxing lyrical.
Aye, man, that particular writer is absolutely poetic.
He actually said it. It wasn't written. KJ said, can I repeat? Nairobi City is drowning in the murky lakes of flowing sewage, estates buried in mountains of garbage, taps whistling in the tunes of dryness as storm waters flood our homes and businesses. The lawmakers raised concerns over unplanned constructions in the city, including high-rises, claiming greedy officials are bribed with cash or apartments to authorize illegal skyscrapers. Sakaja has been challenged over his remarks that tall buildings will now be constructed in areas such as Kileleshwa, Lavington, Eastleigh, among others. The governor has downplayed the positions and instead focused his energy in the battle for UDA chairmanship election slated for April 26th. He responded, having been a national chair of a party, the consensus was that I focus my experience, time and resources at the grassroots for a stronger UDA. What do you think? Yes? It's good.
The thing is,
city is falling apart, but you know what? We'll hold it. We're going to focus on the grassroots elections opponent.
There are very many ways of demonstrating that something is beyond you. But the focus shouldn't just be on Sakaja. The focus should be on anyone who purports to be a leader in this city. The focus should be on anyone who purports to be a leader within the county government. And I'm referring here not to the elected leaders. You know why? Because they are the ones who have the power to check the executive and to ensure that the executive does what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
Focusing the attention on one person doesn't really quite cut it.
No.
There's a county assembly. They have the powers to do very many things. They have the powers to determine very many things. And from these comments, they seem to be getting away scot-free. What are they doing? Do you hear their voices? Do you hear them lamenting over the situation that we have? Do you hear or do you read of any situation where prior to that, we knew the heavy rains were coming, we've had them before, we know what they do. Did we hear them voicing and talking about the need to ensure that stormwater drainage is clearly dredged? Did you hear them talking about harvesting water? Did you hear them speaking and talking about ensuring that building regulations mandate and they are followed up with water harvesting mechanisms? It's called a gutter, for heaven's sake. Okay? That all these buildings that we are putting up in the city, all these square areas of roofing that we have we mandated that they become an avenue for collecting water, otherwise known as harvesting of water? No. Do we hear them talking about things that would actually help the citizens of this city, the people who actually elected them? No. So now, when the focus now there is directly on just one person, that one person, yes, bears the brunt of the responsibility because they're the governor, but they're not the only ones whose fingers should be pointed at.
So the question then is, with the things that are going wrong, and there are many things that are not going or the way they should within the city, and we can name them. We could spend an hour naming them. But are we essentially saying that there are more to take responsibility for these things than just the county boss?
They have to. KJ, we know, has been responsible for these meals that are provided for primary school children in his constituency. We know that.
He has, yeah.
We know that he has spearheaded them. Now, the governor of Nairobi has spoken a great deal about it. Is it Dishi and something of
Dishi County?
Yes, exactly. Those are good initiatives, okay? Whoever has played a part, and those who actually originated this program and brought it to the county and brought it to the constituencies are to be lauded, okay? Those are citizens who started the initiative. The politicians have jumped on it nicely, and they're taking credit for it nicely. It is okay. People are benefiting, all right? The citizenry need to take the initiative to look after their own interest. When repeatedly you have a government or individuals you've elected and you have problems or disasters that are impending, you can see them coming. And what needs to be done isn't done sufficiently. Don't wait. Don't even bother lamenting. Organize yourselves and ensure that whatever needs doing is done.
Because you can do it.
You can do it. If it's piling pressure on the leaders, you can pile the pressure. Don't join the politicians just talking about it. Talking about it is one way of, yes, highlighting it, but get together and do something about it. Because after all, it's you who's being affected. And it's you who will continue to be affected.
This does not solve the issue.
No, it doesn't.
And that there are issues that need attention and that need solving today is what is probably more glaring and is hitting us in the face, every minute. One wonders why so bad so quickly.
There's in the Business Daily, the headline, Kenya seeks US support in fresh hunt for cheap loans. Okay, we seem determined that we should get cheap loans. I have to ask.
Please do.
They have existed all along. Why were we going for these expensive commercial loans in the first place?
Because they're quick
and which were dollar denominated.
Yeah, because they're quick and there are few questions that are asked about them. Conditionalities,
The thing that I find unpalatable about this whole story is that at the end of the day, when you talk about they're not being funded, do you know why they're not funded? Because we're paying back these expensive loans. If you're told that close 70%, if slightly more than 70% of whatever we earn as a country goes to paying debts, how do you think that happens? We don't have enough money to look after our daily affairs because we are paying for these expensive loans which were taken on our behalf. And their behalf was not fulfilled. Because if it was fulfilled, then even some of these problems we're talking about would not exist.
The behalf was not considered at all.
No. Yet the money was taken. Citizens of Kenya, you really do need to wake up. There are many things you can do for yourself and those which you can't do. Okay? And when you've done them, then apply pressure and find ways in which you can try to figure out how you can get rid of these leaders who are not representing you.
Very true.
If you elected them, it means you can get rid of them.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I think that just has to be it. It's not about coddling people or, or massaging anybody's ego. It's, look, you were put there to do a job. Because think about it and it's not about romancing the thing or being emotional. You were put there to do a job. If you cannot deliver, and it doesn't matter at whatever level, if it was in the private sector, they would give you time. They will even put you on what they call
a PIP.
Thank you very much. They put you on that, and after some time, you still are not able to. They'll say, "Oga, thank you very much. Come and be going."
Yes.
Right.
Let's just do this little arithmetic about your dues, and perhaps we are not the right fit for you. We urge you. We've got a month or so.
Yeah.
We urge you to look for a better fit.
Yeah. Maybe somebody who would fit you better, because clearly we don't fit you.
No, this thing isn't working.
But for some reason, we seem to think that the requirements of an entire nation. Okay, let's not even get that large. The requirements of a ward, the requirements of a constituency, the requirements of a county that cannot be put to the same test, cannot be put to the same litmus test and say, you know what, do your job. If you can't do your job, thank you very much. It doesn't work. Let's go. We can't. For some reason, we want to glorify the position and say, it's okay, you do rubbish for the next 5 years, and we'll see if we can even put you back again to do some more rubbish for another 5. That's what it sounds like. Yeah.
You're suffering. And right now, by the way, and schools are opening not very long from now.
Oh, please don't remind me.
No, yes, I have to remind you, because it's a simple reality. Okay? By the time people are wading in water that is almost waist deep, what do you think that is all about? And this is not just Nairobi, it's all over the country. All over the country. River bursts its banks. Why? You know, we don't need to wait for a disaster to take place for us to wake up to the realities of what needs to be done. Not really. Because by the time the disaster has occurred, people have been harmed, some have died, and there have been enormous economic losses. And all these things need not have happened. Yes.
Okay.
When we know full well and we have the means to understand and know what is happening ahead of time, why do you wait for it to happen and then you start making noise and start trying to remedy a situation that could have remedied before it actually happened or before it actually occurred?
Well, let me give you another such situation, CT.
Please do.
State issues ultimatum as talks with doctors do what? They collapse.
Okay.
Talks to end the doctors' strike appear to have hit a snag, prompting the national government and counties to issue an ultimatum threatening to take punitive action against union officials and doctors who have stayed away from work. Now, look, we're not making up these headlines. We're not making up these stories, these things that you're reading. These are things that are actually happening in the country today.
They're being reported as they happened.
They're happening in the country today. Okay? So, the government said its lawyers will file a status report in court and seek review of orders that have been issued by the Employment and Labour Relations Court to pave the way for punitive action against striking doctors and officials of the Kenya Medical Pharmacists and Dentists Union. The measures the government said it would enforce include suspension of salaries and benefits for doctors who remain on strike and legal action against KMPDU leaders who were accused of dishonesty. Now, these are threats right now. They come a day after the doctors refused to attend a crucial meeting on Monday, which aimed to end the 43-day-long strike. In an attempt to enforce compliance and restore normalcy to the healthcare sector, the national government and counties have resorted to asserting the authority. Health Cabinet Secretary Susan Nakhumicha said the government has instructed their legal counsel to immediately move to court and file the status report of what had been agreed on as a return to work formula. So she went on and said, you know what? The court had told us before, 2 of you sit down, sort this thing out. Now that they've sat down and they've not been able to sort it out, the CS has said, you know what? This is the status of things. Now take that, file it in court so that court is aware that we had sat down and we had more so agreed.
Who did they agree with? Agreed upon means the two warring parties have come to an understanding.
Yes,
not one side has agreed that they want. Look, if it is the union of doctors, they have agreed on their demands. They know what they want. If it is the government, they have agreed on how they are going to tackle the issue. Now, the agreement that isn't being spoken of isn't that. It is that you find a middle ground where the two of you can coexist with your differences. Okay? That hasn't been arrived at. So, the back to work formula has gone belly up.
It has. Not even the back to work formula, City. The talks the whole thing has fallen apart because you say you agreed on something, it hasn't been agreed. And this is the thing that you don't want to, what's the word I'm looking for? You don't want to irritate an already irritated situation. And now what are you telling them? That you're going to take them to court and they're going to file a status report?
How do you
think that they're going to say to
yes,
you
how
about
do you think
that?
they're going to react?
Yeah, how do you think they're going to react? If they were going to take a harder stance in a situation where it is now, they'll say, oh, okay. See, it's us, you want to go back to work. And then you're threatening us and telling us that, okay, let's see now who will go back to work after what you've told us. You had 19 key points that you were supposed to discuss. One of the most crucial points. Meanwhile, Davji Atela and Brother Miskela are not intern doctors. They are fighting for the rights of intern doctors here. And they've even said, you've taken 19. Of the 18, you've left one, which is the most crucial for these fellas. Now, you know what? Take the 18 and just give us that one even. We don't want those 18 of yours. That 19, take the 18 and say you're not giving us. That one that is important where you're taking intern doctors and you are paying them because of what they have to go through on the shift, minute after minute. Take them. Give us that one. So because of that, guess what? The talks have collapsed. Will the strike continue? For now, yes. Have we been able to come to a consensus in terms of what needs to be done? No. Will we go to court? Yes. Will it bring the doctors back into hospitals? I don't know. I don't know. We're on day 44 of the strike.
By the way, we've had...
Would one say, has the government tried?
No, we've had 100 days of striking in this country.
Yeah, it's been longer.
And at the time, the person who was then the CS was actually a doctor himself.
Yep.
Okay. 5,000 doctors began the strike in 2016. My friend, the country suffered. And you know what? You think the issues were different from the ones we're talking about now?
No.
No, not really.
No. Still CBAs, still
Yes.
return to work, still postings and salaries and allowances, payments and insurance, still the same thing.
And the issue was fire doctors. Okay, they were fired. What then? Who
work?
Look, all these decisions that are being made, do those who are on the government side fully understand the give and take that has to be center in such matters?
That's the question.
Threats are not give and take.
It's raining, it's pouring. In this case, the old man is not snoring. There's a lot that's going on. Will the doctors go back to work? Well, at this rate, it doesn't look like it. Those talks have collapsed. And it's raining everywhere in the country, not just in terms of water. The conversations continue. We're getting round towards the top of the hour. We're going to come in here at 7 and talk about when members of parliament change their mind. Good morning. It's 7 a.m.
Spice up your life.
This is the News Wire. I'm Lal Umaga. Controversy in the issue of payment for medical interns has completely undermined the negotiations to reach an agreement between the government and doctors to end their strike and return to work at this time when Kenyans continue to struggle to get medical services. Now, despite the county and national governments agreeing to provide 3.5 billion shillings to pay arrears of doctors' salaries, hire more doctors, promote them, as well as deal with the issue of health insurance, KMPDU has rejected all proposals, saying the issue of payment of intern doctors is key. Chief of Public Service Felix Kuskei, Council of Governors Chair Anwar Guru and Health CS Susan Nakhumicha say that the government has resolved 18 of the 19 issues raised by the doctors, but surprisingly, they've refused to sign the return to work contract.
It is most unfortunate that the doctors have deliberately refused and ignored or disregarded the courtesies extended to them. The doctors are therefore insensitive to the suffering and plight of the vulnerable Kenyans in dire need of health services. We wish to reiterate that all county-specific issues, as raised by the union, were adequately agreed upon.
Would like to confirm that the Ministry of Health has managed to get 3.5 billion for payment of salary arrears from 2017 to 2024 June. This will be paid in 5 installments each financial year. Equally, the ministry has received 2.4 billion for payment of internship.
KMPD, on the other hand, has maintained its position of full implementation of the 2017 CBA if the government wants its members to end the strike. Secretary General Davji Tele and his deputy Dennis Miskela say the issue of payment of medical interns shouldn't be discussed but instead be implemented just as it is.
I want to challenge the government that, as doctors have said, kindly take the 18 issues back. We don't want them. Just implement the one issue remaining, the interns. But still, they don't let you to take the change and keep. Just sort the interns. For us, that's the reason why the deal will go through until we learn.
And brace yourself for heavy rains in the next 6 days. This event comes as 38 people have died following the ongoing floods being witnessed in various parts of the country. In addition, more than 110,000 families across the country have been affected by the floods in the last 24 hours. In Kirinyaga County, more than 60 families have been left homeless after Thiba River broke its banks and destroyed their homes. Red Cross disaster officer Venant Ngdela says residents were forced to wake up in the middle of the night after flood waters entered into their houses, forcing them to stay awake in the cold.
It is bad. It is a disaster, even as at now, because the people who we find mostly getting affected, the people who don't have alternatives. We are trying as much as possible with our resources, with our teams in the field, to do the risk map, to map those populations who are at risk.
In Kirinyaga, residents have blamed the county government for failing to address the issue, claiming that flooding has become a constant problem.
Been suffering here all along, every time, and as you can see, we thought this would be the solution. Kina mama wana karibu wainue guo, men as well.
Mimi nasikia huzuni sana kwa vile maji imejaa huku, nyumba za watu zinabomoka zote kwa sababu hizo mboma watu halali, mbuzi zinakufa, kuku hakuna na watu wanalala ndani ya maji.
In Machakos County, a 10-year-old boy from Yatta has been rescued from raging floods by police officers who used a helicopter to reach him. Nairobi County is also leading in the number of flood victims, and the situation is expected to get worse after heavy rains were experienced throughout the night. And finally, chief administrative secretaries are set to take home a gross salary of 780,000 shillings if appointed by President William Ruto. SRC Chair Lynn Mengich says the salary of the CAS will be capped at 780,000, slightly higher than the 710,000 an MP pockets every month. The salary includes 459,113 in basic pay, 165,000 house allowance, and 155,800 in salary market adjustment. That's the Newswire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
Okay, a few minutes after 7 o'clock, it's busy in the city. The rain and the floods is what is bothering everybody. So 2 roads we're going to watch out for. It doesn't matter around the country, just so you're aware. And we've received that notice. We receive it every morning, but then there it is again. With rain having come down overnight, Raila Odinga Way, as you're heading out towards the city mortuary roundabout junction, if you can do, because the water is quite a thing. And also heading out into Mombasa County, Links Road, Nyeri, if you can avoid it, do that, because that also is flooded and we don't know how deep that is. We're seeing movement on the Thika Superhighway coming into the CBD in Nairobi, and also on Kiambu Road, a little bit of traffic here and there. Coming in from Muthaiga is also some traffic, and it's also busy as you come in to the city from Westlands. All right, we're keeping an eye on things as we do this morning. Langata Road looks good. Uhuru Highway will pack up as you get into it, into the city. Let's talk SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Indeed it is, at 7 minutes after 7 o'clock on this 24th day of April, and Kenya's biggest conversation gets into its second hour, and as we are getting into it, we will have a conversation about changing minds, changing times, changing ideas. Well, we'll get into that in just a minute. And as we get into that, just welcome to all our audiences on different platforms, whether you're tuned in on our live streams on YouTube and Facebook, or onto our radio platforms such as Radio Garden and the like. And also welcome to our audience on KTN Home joining us this hour. We get into it this hour with the Member of Parliament for Gatanga constituency, Wakili Edward Muriu. Good morning.
Good morning, Oko, and my good friend Latif. Happy to see all of you on this very, very, very wet morning.
This Latif is actually CT Muga. The other Latif is, CT Muga. Doing something somewhere else.
The agent provocateur.
I'm going to put an end to this friendship.
Right?
My apology.
This friendship when he can just call you whatever.
Just call me what he likes. Wait,
my apologies.
I'm going to call him Songo just now.
My apologies. It's early morning and here we are. And the three of you, this is your fault because you have not invited me this year.
Okay.
This is your fault. So if I mix up the names and the like, kindly. And then also you are sitting where that man I mentioned is.
So I kind of look like him because I'm sitting in
Here we are. Well, thanks a lot for giving me an opportunity to meet you today.
Well, there's a chance to redeem yourself.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And so CT goes around, as you know, to different countries every week, and he gets a proverb from one country, a proverb a day from one country. And this week he's in the Republic of Congo, and so he has a proverb, and then you will tell us when he tells us what that proverb means or how it resonates with you. Is that fair deal?
Well, I'll simply mention the proverb. It's simple, and then you'll tell us how you resonate with it. Okay?
Awesome.
Let me now say how the Congolese would say it. I will not get the intonation right, but I will simply read it as it's written. Kokende liboso eza kokoma te. Meaning, te. To go ahead doesn't mean you have arrived.
Mheshimiwa.
Yes.
What does that mean to you? What do you think? What do you think the Congolese are saying here?
I think I think it's very resonates with also with our even in my language has almost a similar metaphor because life is a journey. It's not a destination. Starting the journey does not mean you have arrived. Yeah, and you're very right in terms of even a human life, basic human life, it does not end with death. It's a journey all through. So I think it tells us not to be too comfortable. We have a long way to go.
Indeed. Well, 1,000,000 points.
Yes.
I'm giving them on behalf of CT. And you may do with them as you please. All right. As we get into our conversation this morning, the legislature, Gatanga constituency, how are things going? Let's just, get a status report from you. How are things going from a legislative point of view as we're getting into year 2 of this administration? How have things been going on your side?
I would say that it's a mixed bag. and the weighing scale is in favor of the general feeling of the people on the ground. I was there yesterday. I had gone to deliver checks to our schools. We have a very ambitious program of revamping our learning institutions. We are putting a budget of about 400 million, and this year we are releasing about 160. Surprisingly, maybe for your information, Gatanga is one of the first destinations of the colonialist, and therefore, in their wisdom or lack of it, they were able to put a lot of schools, especially the missionaries. And those schools require a lot of revamping. I will surprise you, my father went to a local school. It's called Kihumbuini Primary School. He's 85 years old. And it's still the same, it looks the same way. It used to look those days in the 50s. My mother went to a primary school called Gatonyo Primary School. It looks the same. So we have huge agenda. And just to answer your question, I come from what you can call a peri-urban constituency, because we border Thika. In fact, almost half of that constituency is Del Monte Estate, Kakuzi PLC, and other large coffee farms. So almost half in terms of the lot size, it's more commercial. And then on the southern border, we border the city of Nairobi. So what it means that it's peri-urban in terms of mixture of people's needs. And talking about the what you call the bedrock of the politics down there, they're farmers, they're coffee farmers, they're avocado farmers, they're tea farmers, they're macadamia farmers, and they rely on their farms for their welfare. One of the things I would like to say is that, first of all, let me thank God for the rain. Because rain is 90% of our problems. Water is 90% of our problems.
Or lack of it, rather.
Yes, the lack of our problems or lack of it. And that solves very many issues, because when you have a population of about 110,000 registered voters, talk about like 300, 400,000 registered, population, which predominantly depends on agriculture, and there's rain, then there is, that it means 90% of the problem are solved. Because with now introduction of this, of the subsidized fertilizer, that is enough food. With the new intervention in the coffee sector, with the new increase in terms of the intervention, especially on the marketing of tea, then maybe I tell you that maybe this year they might receive the largest bonus. In terms of tea, is doing very well. Avocado, Katanga is leading in the country in terms of avocado production. Actually, the statistic says we do about 23 to 25% of all the avocados grown in this country. And last year we were able to generate about 20 billion in the whole country in the avocado. It's a big business, and surprisingly, every show has one or two trees. So I would say the cost of living has gone down. The life is bearable. Then there's also social interventions which the government has come up with. The Inua Jamii programs, whereby Katanga registered one of the largest numbers in terms of the people above 70 years, close to about almost like 15,000. They are getting their stipends on monthly basis. The bursary system through the CDF system, you find that again you're supporting the parents with students in secondary school. school and universities with bursaries just to cushion them against the vagaries of the economies. Again, the bursary has gone up. So in terms of support at the ground level, both in terms of securing the area by putting up new police stations, chiefs camps, and the like, is going on very well. And finally, of course, in terms of the road network, of course, the roads with these trains, they are a bit slippery. But again, there's also there's elaborate plans to ensure that those roads are passable. But again, 70%, 80% of our roads in Gatanga, they're tarmacked. So just a few connecting roads which need a bit of intervention. The Great Mau Road are still having a bit of a problem because the government has not been able to put new money to be able to bring back the contractor on site. So basically what I would like to say is that the social interventions which the government has put in place is cooling the tempers. People are no longer putting sufurias in their heads in the name of the price of unga. They have enough to eat. And the basic interventions is purely maybe areas of power and new roads, and making sure that the society is well supported in all those other aspects. But finally, big challenge, because again, it's good as a leader to not to only give you the flowery part, but maybe also give you the other side of the coin. We have a serious issues of unemployment. And I'm sure that cuts across the board. And it's sad that we on one hand we are drumming up support for education, make sure they go to school, blah blah blah. But on the other hand, we are not drumming employment in the same breath and same strength. So that's a challenge. And I'm sure that there are a number of interventions which are in place, but they have not started yielding the desired results. The employment for our youth is at catastrophic level.
It's at a tipping point.
So we've established that there are a number of people within the constituency essentially that they depend on you for what you're going to be able to legislate that will directly affect their lives. Whether it is they're talking about tea, whether coffee, whether avocado, whatever it is that they're looking at that would affect them directly, they actually then do depend on you. When you go to the National Assembly and you start to represent, you start to lobby for legislation or for certain things, right? They do depend on you for that. Have you been able to see that this dependence on you coupled with what you actually do in the house is yielding results?
I would say the mandate of the people. My background, I'm a commercial corporate lawyer. And and therefore it's a totally big is a fundamental shift from what I used to do. And I've come to appreciate the power of the vote. I'll tell you something very interesting just to answer your question. When I initially elected, the water you take in your homes, 80 to 90% comes from Gatanga constituency, a dam called the Kaine Dam. I'll surprise you, that water, it is consumed in Nairobi, but has never been consumed in the Gatanga constituency.
And yet it comes
from the heart of Gatanga constituency in a place called Kaine.
Could you explain how that is so?
Yep, I'm coming there. And this is key to just answer the question in terms of the effectiveness of representation and effectiveness as a member of parliament when you come to representation, because legislation is one thing, representation is the other. You'd be surprised that dam was built 30 years ago. Not a drop of water had been taken, and yet Gatanga is water deficient, because once you collect all their water and take all of it to Nairobi, you leave them with nothing. Naturally, it's water deficient. Therefore, people have been using to take water from small streams, dirty rivers, and most maybe some dirty boreholes. And by the virtue of my position, I've been able to lobby for the first time in the history to be able to get 10 million liters every day. That's 1,000 cubic liters of water to be injected in the Gatanga water system from the Kaine Dam. In fact, 2 weeks ago, we had a major function we call Gatanga Water Day, because it's a big political issue. and I brought in the PS4 Water, Kimodo, the CEOs for Adi Water, or the Waterworks, the CEO for National Irrigations. Again, just talk about the water and assure the people. And what came out clearly is that hopefully in the next 1 month or so, we will be able to, the people of Gatanga will taste their own water for the first time in 30 years. That's the power of representation and the power of the vote, because it has given me access not only to any office in this country. In fact, this came from that was given by the president when I made an appeal to him when he came to my constituency, and it has yielded in about a year in that such a way that 30 years no water, but in 1 year there is water. The other issue maybe I would like maybe to mention is about is a realm of agriculture. I've said that Gatanga constituency, the bedrock is farmers. Coffee, tea, avocado, macadamia, cutting across the board, over and above trade and commerce and this kind of thing. I'm sure you heard the furrow about the avocado taxation issues. And maybe I will surprise you, and maybe it's good to give the background. Our KRA happened to conduct a sensitization campaign within the area, requesting farmers to register under teams so that they can sell the avocado. What message came to you see, there is the message and how it is received.
There's what is stated, there's what people hear.
Exactly. There's what you say and what I hear. Yes. So the people understood that they will start paying taxes. And there was a big issue. There happened to be that meeting. And of course I said very clearly that first and foremost as a member of parliament, having voted for the finance bill 2023, there is no provision where farmers are supposed to be taxed. In fact, I faulted KRA for jumping the gun, because they went there to educate people on the provisions of Section 23A. And the Section 23A talks about the need, or rather the provision provides for registration of everybody who is doing business under e-teams. And I told them, number one, primary agriculture is not business. It is primary agriculture. That's why it's defined by the Act. And therefore, before they can even go to the farmers, now one of the things they need to do is just make sure that everybody who does trade is registered, again, to comply with the law. But again, also the message was also wrong, because it was a long starting place. It is going to the farmers, the avocado farmers, telling them to start registration. Of course, everybody sees, yes, I'm getting registered for what purpose? For purposes of taxation. And I'll tell you, and I've put these things in Parliament. I put this thing in our media and say, look, Section 23A has not touched the farmers at all.
Okay, can we just hold on to that a minute, because we've come from the precedent where you told us that everything is, fantastic in Gatanga. People are going to school, bursaries have been received, and that everybody's doing well. But the situation on the ground seems to be a little bit different, where folks are complaining about one of these things that you have mentioned. If we do look at Section 23A, it does say very clearly, the Finance Act introduced 23A. It grants the Commissioner the authority to establish an electronic tax system for issuing tax invoices and recording stocks, right? And so everybody essentially falls under this. But folks are complaining, first of all, that these are things that should have been seen previously when there was agreement towards the Finance Act, which, everybody overwhelmingly voted for. But that it should have been seen that this would have been something that would come then to scuttle the businesses of people like the ones in Gatanga. How would we have agreed to something previously, and having not seen this clause, which is clear that it was coming about to touch on basically everybody who sells a product or deals in a product in the country?
I think, as a lawyer, I'll tell you, when it comes to legal interpretation, There is the wording and the spirit. If you read properly Section 23A, it says every person is supposed to register on e-teams. Registration and taxation are two different things. That clause, the spirit behind it is data collection. And when it comes to public matters, and you learn as you go, you need to be very careful, because first and foremost, you need to start from why. Before when you go to the public, you need to start from why. The purpose here is very, very important. The spirit is to collect the data on what people are doing.
Is KRA a data collection agency, or is it a tax collection agency?
You can't collect data you can't collect tax without data.
What is the ultimate goal?
I'm trying to explain the spirit of the law. By understanding. The spirit is to ensure that by the time they make their own decisions in terms of taxation, they have a data on what everybody does. Remember, the e-teams, what it does is that before you sell anything, you donate an e-teams invoice. And that shows the kind of activities and the turnovers which you are generating, and automatically you get into what you call the taxation radar. One of the things Kenyans fear most is what you call direct taxation. In direct taxation, they don't worry. They know there is indirect taxation when you buy fuel, and even when you travel in a matatu. There is indirect tax when you buy bread and milk. But I think one of the greatest fear for Kenyans, and not only farmers but everybody, is direct taxation. So the spirit is to capture data.
I can understand.
Now, the issue here is how was the message delivered to the people, and that's all the issue. And because it came out like, the government is done away with the middle class and their pay slips. Now they're heading to the farmers, and of course that was narrative which was trying to be.
Allow me to take a few steps back, because I think this is very important. Because at the time when the Finance Act was being debated in Parliament by yourselves, one would have wondered why all of these issues were not read, and why they were not accepted or discussed as to now the spirit and the practice. Because as I think about it now, it's very clear in my mind, one who is mandated to collect tax, that is their end goal. Anything that they will do in the interim is leading them to the point whereby they will collect taxes.
Absolutely.
It is not possible that you would imagine that KRA is saying, just share your data with me and then let's just have a wonderful time where we're looking at data. It is for the ultimate collection of taxes, right? So at the time that the Finance Act was being passed by your good selves, was this issue brought up? Was it debated and said, hold on a minute, why are you asking for this information? Or did we just pass it in merriment and in good faith and then wait until later when we actually see the result of what it's happening or what it's doing to the good people of Gatanga, and then we say, hang on a minute, this is actually not what the Act said? Or did we understand it in the beginning?
I repeat again, and I think for avoidance of doubt, the spirit behind Section 23A is to empower KRA as a body empowered under the Constitution in terms of revenue collection to work from a point of information. And there's no harm in that. But as I said, it came out, how the message was packaged when it comes to data collection is wrong. Now, let's go back a bit. Everybody, big and small, have a PIN number. By the virtue of the PIN number, it means that every transaction, you are supposed to put your PIN number on whatever system it is, But that does not mean that there is an element of taxation. But I think it's important as an institution to be empowered to have the data for them to make well-considered decision. Let me come to the crunch of the matter here. And again, because that is basically the elephant in Section 23A. It came out that the purpose of this is to levy taxation on farmers. Because,
Absolutely.
yes, I'm coming there.
Yeah.
And in particular, the avocado farmers.
Absolutely.
That's the narrative.
Was it a false narrative, Mheshimiwa?
It is a totally false narrative. I've been saying that in the book of Matthew,
Okay. 23A.
There'll come a time when we shall have what we call false prophets. And those false prophets will be doing miracles, just the way Jesus used to do them. There is a narrative, especially by the opposition, a narrative also pushed by the media, and it's purely geared towards bringing a separation or bringing a wedge between the farmers and the government.
Okay, let me push a narrative right now before we go to break, and then maybe you can come back and answer that once we do. And it's not that anybody wants to split anybody else, but the question here is, when the Finance Act was being debated and when you actually went to the vote, were all of these issues that are now being discussed, when it looks, I'm going to use the people of Gatanga as an example, when it looks as though the good people of Gatanga will have to pay a little bit extra to survive, these issues that have now come up that are being debated, were they looked at in their entirety before everybody said yes to the bill? Were they looked at? These questions where now we are saying that were you just collecting data because you wanted to look at the information, or were you collecting data for the eventual process of taxation? So the question is today, was the vote made in some kind of momentary euphoria, or was it actually looked at and how it was going to affect people? We're going to take a break and maybe you'll look at that when we come back. It's 27 minutes to the top of the hour. Conversations about changing times. What does it actually mean when more taxes are introduced and when we make decisions? We'll come back. We'll take a look at weather and traffic and be back right after this.
This is the...
Thank you very much, Eric, and it's good to be at the Situation Room.
Always a pleasure coming here. This is the most challenging interview panel in Kenya. You guys are very well informed, and as you can see, Charles today, very philosophical.
To be poor in this country is the greatest sin you can commit, not just from a legal perspective, but from life generally.
Yeah.
It is very, very skewed.
We've just heard on the floor of Parliament, just most recently, a leader within the ODM saying that Sisi ni ng'ombe is a baba.
Yeah.
Which means that you are willing to be milked dry.
You cannot force me to believe. I'll give way. If it's land that I'm told to return to you, I will. Okay? Because the court has said so. But I'll continue saying, hawa watu wamenirusha. That's all that I'm doing.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
The weather with SpiceFM.
Cloudy conditions. Rain will continue in parts of Nairobi. We'll see highs of 23 and lows of 16. Looking into partly sunny conditions at 17 in Nakuru and 17 and sunny in Nyeri. Out into Eldoret, sunny at 17, going to highs of 23. And Mombasa is cloudy at 25. We'll see highs of 30. And Malindi cloudy at 25. We'll see highs of 31. It's 21 and cloudy in Kisumu with highs of 27. And looking into a mostly cloudy Kakamega at 19, we'll see highs of 27 as well. Light rain continues in Kampala at 21 with highs of 25. And Dar es Salaam is cloudy at 25 with highs of 30 and lows of 24. It's sunny at 16 in Johannesburg with highs of 28. And looking into a sunny Mogadishu at 28, going to highs of 33. Sunny at 15 in Addis Ababa with highs of 24. And into Lagos, it's clear at 26, going to highs of 34 and highs of 31. In a cloudy Kinshasa at 25.
Spice up your life.
Busy in the city this morning. It's coming off Thika Superhighway and it's heavy as you get towards the Pangani Underpass, and there's Kiambu Road traffic as well. And coming off of Limuru Road, that whole area coming in from Gigiri, Thigiri Ridge, and then out towards Wangari Maathai. Some build up there as you get towards Parklands and then out into the city roundabout Huru Highway. If you're going to go in the direction of Westlands, you should be all right for now, coming from that area. There's the pitter-patter of rain in the city this morning. Ngong Road has a little bit of traffic in different spots as you're getting into it, and Jogo Road is busy. The Eastern Bypass as you're coming then towards the Embakasi Loop, and then coming in from Cabanas, North Airport Road out towards Outer Ring. All of that busy this morning, and we're getting into traffic hour right about now. Let's see what happens as we go through it. Talk to us. We want to keep things moving this morning. Please be careful. Don't get into a puddle. You don't know how deep it is. We'll talk on SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
Spice FM. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
It's 23 minutes to the top, and that's 23 more minutes of a conversation this morning with a Member of Parliament for Gatanga constituency, Weshibia Murio, and we're looking at issues affecting folks when it does come to taxes introduction, and that's what folks are crying about today. Talking about just a few months back when a bill that essentially invited all that we are seeing today was passed by the National Assembly, passed by Parliament rather, and now we see the effects of that. And the question is, was due diligence done at that time when these issues were passed in Parliament?
I'm very proud about this country. And what makes me very proud about this country is that we are discussing issues which matter. Is not mundane matters. If you go back like 3-4 years ago, this time around, the kind of conversation which were in the radio are very mundane, very sectional, very tribal. But I like the focus not only on the media but also the general populace in terms of the conversations which we are doing what you call a national discourse. And I maybe just to assure you, the bills in Parliament when they come, remember. They come to Parliament on what you call the plenary. And before they come to Parliament, remember there's a committee which interrogates them in detail and makes recommendations. And therefore, when it comes now to Parliament, it does not come to Parliament as an omnibus. It's not just drafted and thrown to the plenary. It has a lot of elaborate process, and then what the committee does makes certain recommendations, and those recommendations are very important because they are what you call the pointers on the direction the budget or the finance bill is taking, and therefore I want to assure you and assure the nation that there is no what you call omnibus passing of bills in Parliament. They are interrogated, they are debated, and coming to this issue, because again that has been the narrative. All the members of Parliament, they just do an acclamation, they say yes and they vote, and then there you are. That is wrong.
Okay.
The bills are properly interrogated. Remember, we are the guardian of the people. And therefore, one of our key duty responsibility is to ensure their interest is taken care of. And I said, Section 23A is meant to put everybody in the radar. Developed countries, that's what they do. We are heading there. But the difference between putting everybody in the radar and taxation. And I would like to talk about something very important here. Kenya, like any other country in the world, recognizes the role played by primary agriculture. I'm a farmer. And a primary agriculture is where a farmer takes a seed, plants, waits for the rain, prays to God that there are no pests, No man gets with his produce, and then eventually, hopefully, he's able to harvest. That is totally different from trade. And all over the world, primary agriculture is subsidized. America is one of the largest subsidizers of their farmers. Ukraine, Russia, and even UK, their farmers are subsidized and protected. In Kenya, in the same analogy, Kenyans the farmers are protected. Remember, 80 to 90% of Kenyans are farmers. They depend on their shambas to be able to feed themselves. They are not traders. They are not business people. They are farmers, and therefore, the policy of the government and the policy and my position as a member of parliament is protect agriculture, and that's what you find. This current government is very robust in terms of providing cheap fertilizer. Price which we came back all the way from 7,500 to about 2,500, bring down the price by almost close to about 75%, and that is key, and that is a pointer to the importance of this agenda. Number two, it is one of the largest employers. It's one of the largest.
No, not one of.
It is the largest. Is the largest employer of our people. Yes. And the moment you keep people busy in their farms and they produce their own food, the social order comes into place. Okay. And therefore, I think it would be wrong to say, look, on one hand, the government is very busy providing cheap fertilizer, providing markets for the farmers, coming up with what you call creating an enabling environment for farming, and on the other hand, you are waiting a farmer with a hammer to tax them. In fact, it's not possible.
So you're saying that's unfair?
It's not possible.
You know, Mheshimiwa, the statement you made about the media and the narratives that we push, let us take it gracefully that indeed we as the media sometimes push narratives that are not palatable to many people. The matter of taxation becomes an issue not when people are taxed, but when taxation represents something that people do not consider to be useful. The whole point of taxation is so that the government has the means to provide services for the citizen. That's really what the taxation is. And the government doesn't have any other business. That's how the government goes about raising its money. It taxes people. Now, if people understand that their taxes go towards the things that make their lives better, there is absolutely no reason why people would have a problem with taxation. There is absolutely nothing wrong with Kenya Revenue Authority conducting a census, collecting data. Absolutely nothing wrong, because the more data they collect, the better informed they will be when they're making taxation decisions. There is nothing even wrong with these e-tips. All these things that we talk about, in and of themselves, whether they're talking about the letter thereof or the spirit, nothing is wrong. What becomes a problem is when people feel. And there's a reality embedded in their minds that their lives are becoming more difficult, meaning, and they can't afford to live as they have been accustomed to. So when the government asks for more taxes, the pushback is, but we have already been paying taxes and our lives are difficult. Now, if you tax us more, our lives will be even more difficult because we will have less. Now, you happen to be the party that currently is in the chair and is governing this country. If you look at the taxes that we have, and if you look at the rate at which we pay off debts that were acquired on our behalf, not by this government alone. This government have done their fair share and have done it fairly well. But the previous government, whatever remains to conduct the affairs of government is a very small amount. Now, when members who are elected like yourself, Mheshimiwa, communicate these things to the citizenry listen and they actually believe you. Where problem arises when they can't connect what you've said with what they are experiencing. Then when that disconnect occurs, then there's a bit of a problem. Now, the finance bill, we've had many things said about it. People have said it was too voluminous, they didn't quite read all of it. Those matters are neither here nor there. That it was passed is also neither here nor there. Most people don't even understand that there's a finance bill literally every year. So it's not something new. It's just that when it is highlighted, for some people it's the first time they're hearing of it. may I then put the challenge to you, Mheshimiwa, that every time the media does something that you find unpalatable, you should speak about it. If we get something wrong, you should speak about it. In fact, point specifically at the individual who has miscommunicated. But by the same token, when we point out things to you, it is not out of malice. It is out of observation. We have observed and we're saying, this is what we have observed. If there's something we've missed, you as the wearer of the shoe should be able to tell us, excuse me, media person, what you've missed out is A, B, C, D. The truth of the matter is this. If there is even a whiff, not the existence, just a whiff of taxation, when what preoccupies the minds of most people in this country is that their lives are difficult and they cannot manage to live as they should, they will not accept any notion of new taxation. It is a problem. They have difficulties with it. So how do you, elected members of our society, communicate what is taking place to make their lives easier and how it is that what they believe is not in essence the truth?
Taxation is a very delicate balance. Because remember, on one hand, you are taking money. On the other hand, you are promising services. And therefore, it is not what you call a cup of coffee when it comes to public discourse on taxation. However, one of the there are two things here. Taxation and prosperity goes hand in hand. Taxation and prosperity goes hand in hand. If research says the countries which pay slightly higher taxes has higher levels of development. Now, what level? What I'm only talking about? Kenya taxation level is at 18% of the GDP. Countries like America, you talk about like 44. Nordic countries maybe above 50. But you find that there is an element of taxation and prosperity. Countries which are less taxed, and this is very important, countries which have less taxation has less connection with the government and therefore has less demands. One of the countries with the least taxation against GDP is DRC Congo. The next one is Nigeria. And therefore you find the connection between the rulers and the ruled, there's a disconnect.
I'm sorry, I have to. Let me finish. I'm sorry. I think that it's also very important when we're sharing information that we must be also factual, Mheshimiwa, because we cannot say taxing and prosperity. There's a line that you missed there, that what is actually done with the taxes essentially is what leads to this development that we are talking about. I hope
you're patient enough.
I had to put that in there so that we don't miss out on that point. Very
Thank you very much. I'll tie it up. I'll tie it up. My point here, because before I was interrupted, is that taxation and the connection with the leadership goes that hand in hand. And therefore, and that's why I said in my preamble that I like the discourse currently happening in the media, in the social media, in our TV stations, in our radio stations, and across the streets. And we are talking about our economy and how our money is spent. That is a very, very important conversation, because if you and you've been here, the conversation which we are having 2 years, 3 years were totally different from what you have right now. Kenyans, and you've said very well, people are hearing finance bill for the first time.
And yet.
All right? So there's incremental value in terms of education. I'm here today as a leader. I'm in the SpiceFM for purposes of educating Kenyans on the purpose, on the bigger goal of the leadership and what we are doing. Because again, if you do not disseminate information, there's a lot of agents of what you call false information. And that's why it's important to point out that there are no services without taxation. And I said clearly when I'm opening remarks, I said, at the ground level, people are happy. The cost of unga has come down. The taxation has supported the subsidies.
Has it?
Absolutely.
Okay. If that was the case.
Right? Let me finish. Let me come home. the people who are over 70 years, the other couple of months we ran an elaborate campaign to register our citizens who are above 70%. Currently,
70 years of age.
70 years of age, and they are currently receiving the monthly stipends. It may be little money, but that social support is very, very important at the ground level. For me and you, 3,400, 4,000 is almost nothing. But at the ground level, somebody who has never been employed by anybody, has never earned any salary, but every month he received his 2,000, 3,000 every month is very powerful.
And you're saying that this is possible. You're saying that this is possible
through taxation.
Because taxation has happened.
Through taxation.
All of these other things are possible
through taxation.
Okay.
And therefore, we, the media, the leaders, and the led have a duty to educate each other, and that's why we have media. So at least we are here to educate our people that it is important to pay taxes so that kind of those services, the bursary, the roads, the power, the water can be supplied to our people. However, let me bring this conjecture here. Over the years, throughout the independence of this country, there has been what we call trust deficiency between the governors and the governed.
It's called mistrust.
Yes. And that's what I'm saying. There's trust deficiency.
That's a nice way of putting it.
Trust deficiency in the sense that there is always a benefit of doubt. Are you sure if you take this money you're going to get X, Y, Z?
Why do you think it exists?
I'll tell you. Because over time, there has been what you call missed expectations. There has been misappropriation, and therefore we have a journey to repair that. And let me say this: the bedrock, our existential threat, the largest, the greatest existential threat in this country, it is corruption. That is our greatest existential threat for this country. And remember, corruption is not a disease. It is not an inherited problem. It is not because it's of lack. Corruption is just bad manners.
Okay, you must see how this would confuse people, can't you? That a month and a half ago, yourself, together with another member of parliament, denied KRA or wanted to deny KRA the opportunity to explain to people, many of them being avocado farmers, as to what this e-teams or what this new tax or what this new information was going to be. Why would you do that if right now you're saying that actually these taxes are necessary, they're good, they're building up the nation, but you wanted to stop a particular meeting where KRA was then going to share information about how they would get into this new system? You must see how that confuses people. Why would you do that?
Let me bring you to the scene. Because sometimes you read and listen, and there's always what you call a broken telephone.
That's why you're here. That's why we're asking. All right.
The avocado farmers and aggregators invited the KRA. That meeting was called by the farmers and the aggregators. Aggregators are the ones who go to the farms, aggregate. You have got 10 avocados, 3 avocados, they aggregate them, and then they give it to the exporter. And the reason why they had gone they had called the KRA is because at the start of the season, all the aggregators received a letter from KRA saying them, look, you can't buy avocados from farmers until all those farmers are registered through e-teams. So the meeting was for KRA to explain to the farmers and the aggregators, what is this animal called e-teams all about? I was at that meeting, and KRA were given an opportunity to explain why a farmer needs to register under e-teams for him to sell his 3 or 4 or 5 avocados. But they failed miserably. What came out clearly is that the message was that we are starting to tax avocado farmers. And that's why we are registering them under A teams. So remember what I said initially. How you send the message, how you package the message and take to the people is very, very important. If they say, look, it is a duty and the responsibility of KRA to register everybody. Now, whether there is a taxation or not taxation, just for example, just the way you would register yourself and get a PIN number. That message did not come out. It came out clearly that yes, now the government is tired with the other taxes. Now they have now gone to tax the avocado farmers at the exception of all the other farmers. And therefore the question came out. Okay, you want to tax us? Yes, okay. Do you tax coffee? Do you tax avocado? Do you tax maize? Do you tax fish? Do you tax sugarcane?
Do they?
That's a question which came out. But why us? So it's about us against them. And just to correct the position, there's nobody who was chased away. But the people say, look, I think you're in the wrong place. It's scary. Because I stood up and said, look, number one, when I do section 23A, there's nowhere there is element whereby you're supposed to come and tax primary agriculture. No. Yes, you're supposed to correct the data, but I don't think this should be the beginning point. You need to have done the better part of the country, and everybody who is doing business, and the farmer should be the last person. So at least again, because again, it's a lot of work.
You were not the farmer. In this case, it was the avocado farmer.
Perfect.
You were looking after the interest of your constituents.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So there was no. I wanted just to clear the notion that they were chased away.
Okay, so are you at this point now making sure that information is coming out clear?
In a public gallery, there is a lot of science in it. And one day, I need to take you to a gallery and you see and read the mood of the people. If you happen to say something which people do not like, they will tell you there and then. Their verdict is immediate. Yeah, that's our people. And it's not only in Qatar constituency, it's all over the country. You find that politicians go and talk things and they are shouted again.
They're shut down.
Right? They're shut down. So the beauty about the public engagement is that you get instant feedback. So the feedback was that was a wrong shot. And therefore, as a member of parliament for a constituency which grows avocado, I must say clearly you are overstepping your role here. I think you need to leave the farmers. We don't have a policy of taxing what you call primary agriculture. I think you might be overstepping your role. And maybe finally, this is very important, and it's good for you, good to know. KRA has, as you saw the other day, there was a court order which knocked off a number of their deliberation, especially on employment. One of their current policy is to employ people, but they earn through commission, in such a way that you eat what you kill. So the more taxation, the tax you collect, the more money you get. Now that is normally a challenge, and that's why they were heading to that direction, and you had to stop them on their feet.
The Member of Parliament for Gatanga constituency, Wakili Edward Murillo, thank you for being here this morning. It will be interesting to see how things unfold as we get into the future, and what really does happen in Parliament. Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Continue conversations. It's 8 o'clock.
Spice up your life.
This is the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga. The falling of a huge tree on Moi Avenue has rendered the road impassable, halting the free flow of vehicular and human traffic. Part of the tree fell on Imenti House, where some businesses were affected. County Council officials are yet to arrive at the scene, although traffic police are on site redirecting vehicles to optional roads available. And still on floods, Murang'a residents have been urged to be on the lookout for earth movements as rains continue to pound most parts of the county. County Director of the Meteorological, Anthony Kinyua, said soils are already saturated. This, he said, had led to mudslides in some areas, especially in the upper zones that are prone to landslides. Elsewhere, about 23 counties have been affected by floods due to heavy rains. The Kenya Red Cross, in a statement, said the affected regions are Nairobi, Coast, Central, Western, Highlands, Rift Valley, Nyanza, Ukambani and the Northeast. In Kirinyaga County, affected residents have called on the government to intervene.
Kuna mara mbili sasa maji yamejaa yakafurika hadi choo zimekuja juu. Siku hizi hata watu wafungui duka hapa sababu maji yamekuja yakanjaa. Tumechoma, hatufungui kazi, kila wakati ni kutoa maji kwa sasa. Sasa tukiomba kutengenezewa hizi mitaro.
Kulingana na mahali hapo kwenye kumekaa, ukiwa na gari huwezi ukavuka hapo. Sasa mpaka mngojee maji rudi chini. Hata venye nimevuka hapo ni kulingana na vile nilikuwa na tinga. Kama singekuwa na tinga, singeweza kuvuka hapo.
Police officers have changed tack in fighting crime, preferring the barrel of the gun over arresting and subjecting subjects to lengthy and slow criminal justice system. A report dubbed Missing Voice Report for 2023 shows that though extrajudicial killing is largely on a decline since 2022, a huge number of those killed at the hands of police last year are unknown. The report, to be launched today, shows that the number of those killed extrajudicially reduced by 9.2% from 130 in 2022 to 118 in 2023, while enforced disappearances reduced from 22 in 2022 to 10 in 2023. Emuhaya MP Omboko Milembe has condemned MPs and other leaders who've bashed Kutu Secretary-General Francis Atwoli for serving in the union for several years. Milembe says that Atwoli's long-term service is a clear indication of his exemplary performance.
Ile jambo ambao mkuweza kukapcha ni ile niliongea kuhusu wale ambao wanachokoza Atwoli. Ati wao wamekaa Kutu for a long time. Kazi ya Atwoli ni kazi ya kuchaguliwa. Unaweza chaguliwa mpaka ile siku watu watasema umechoma. Hata bunge, kuna wabunge wamekaa miaka 28. Bora wanachaguliwa. Kwa hivyo hatutaangalia watu wakiconfront Atwoli, hiyo ni mambo ya kuisolate yeye. Kama wafanyikazi wamekubali Atwoli aendelee afanye nini? Na Mungu awe naye.
Milembe and NC's official Kelvin Lunani further dismissed rumours of the party being disbanded by the UDA Secretary-General Cleophas Malala.
Kwamba chama vile chairman amesema kiko imara. Mimi naona uoga kidogo inatokea hapa. Chama umepata majina mengine siku hizi inaitwa folding. Folding ni kama karatasi ile unakunja na unatupa huko. Ni huwezi fold kitu ambao watu wako ndani. Kitu ambao una fold ni kama karatasi. Kwa hivyo tusiwe na uoga wa kusema folding na nini na nini. Ndio tunaambia Kenya Kwanza, all affiliates, especially UDA, na hii inaenda direct kwa Secretary General ya UDA. Ya kwamba when we were doing the negotiation to be in Kenya Kwanza, he was not there at that time, he was in ODM. Usifikiria kwamba ANC itakunjwa kama hema ya matanga. So we are telling Malala and we are warning him that ANC haitakubali kukunjwa kama hema ya matanga.
A police officer who was among a group deployed to cover the funeral event of Chief of Defence Forces General Francis Ogola has died in an accident. Police say Constable Sidney Saro was aboard a police vehicle when he and his colleagues were proceeding on burial coverage of the late General Ogola when he jumped from the said motor vehicle. As a result of the accident, he sustained head injuries and was rushed to Siaya County Referral Hospital, where he died while undergoing treatment. In the same area, a soldier attached to Kenya Air Force has died in a road accident along Bondo Usenge Road. Corporal Mitch Opio died alongside a motorcyclist, Richard Omundi, after a head-on collision involving two motorcycles. That's the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
If a lion shows you its teeth, it doesn't mean it likes you.
It doesn't mean it likes you. It won't start.
A liar calls as witness one who is either dead or far away. Say it in Kisumu.
been low nin inta iyo nin dheer ayuu markhaati ka dhigtaa. You know this character called liar. He has disturbed people. So when you tell him who are your witnesses, he will take you to a place where it is difficult to verify.
For someone like me who sweats a lot, I cannot survive that. Sweating is biblical. And you must blame it on Adam, not me. Because Adam messed up and he was told, now you fellow you, by the sweat of your brow, thou shalt eat.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Okay, a few minutes after 8 o'clock, what does it look like in the city this morning? It's heavy coming off of the Eastern Bypass, and that's inbound traffic, trying to find its way towards Outer Ring. And it'll probably be busy as you're getting through towards Outer Ring, out towards the Thika Superhighway. There's traffic coming off of Kangunda Road, Manyanja Road, and then crossing over towards Jogoo Road. But this is all normal for this time of the morning. Also, let's look on the western side of things. Traffic coming in from Westlands, Spring Valley, Lower Kabete, and then touching in on Parklands, and then all coming and joining in with what's coming off of Limuru Road this morning. Uhuru Highway is coming and going, inbound and outbound, with some traffic, but we're not seeing any major holdups, at least not for now. We're going to keep an eye on things and see how they develop through the morning. Remember, the rains came down and there are puddles of water, maybe bigger than puddles, but there's quite some of that in different parts of the city. Don't get in if you're not sure of the depth, and even when you are, you want to be careful. Watch out Raila Odinga Way if you're in Nairobi. We're going to keep announcing, and Links Road Nyeri in Mombasa County. Watch out for those. We'll talk. SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Good morning, and it's 8 minutes after 8 o'clock, getting into the third hour of Kenya's biggest conversation this morning. And here we are. It's a full house this hour. Everybody is here. Conversations continue this hour. And again, wherever you're streaming live this show, on YouTube, on Facebook, and on our radio apps, on Radio Garden and the rest, thank you for being here. And again, a warm welcome for those who come in on our on KTN Home. Welcome to our audiences there. This hour, like I said, it's a full house and everybody is here. We're having a conversation around issues surrounding the transgender persons in Kenya. That's what we'll be talking about this hour. And like I said, many people in the room this morning, but it is all good. And as we get into that conversation, Colbert Ojambo is here with us. He's an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. And Adrian Kibe is also here. He's a program assistant with the Kenya Human Rights Commission, and as well as Ava Mrima, who is a communications lead at Insiangu, Kenya. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Good morning.
Oh, good to have you all here today. And as we get into conversations this hour, let us welcome you properly. You know, all hot seats. It's a hot issue. It's a big topic. Many things said and unsaid. So let's get into it and get into it properly with the time that we have, shall we? Right. But before we do that, let's welcome you. You know how people welcome you with a cup of tea? We welcome you with a basket of proverbs. And CT is carrying the basket this morning.
Our proverbs for the whole of the speech come from the Republic of Congo. Not to be confused with DRC. Now, this is Congo Brazzaville. Now, there are three dominant languages in that country. There is what you know as French, there is Lingala, and there is Kitumba. These are the languages that are spoken. There's smattering of Kiswahili, but that you find in DRC, you find it in Uganda, you find a bit of it in Rwanda, but I said a smattering. Now, we tried this week to, first of all, document the proverb in the Lingala language and then give the translation in English. Now, I am going to completely desecrate it because I do not know how exactly the intonation is. So I'm going to read it as it is written. Okay? Kokende li boso eza kokoma te. Now, what that is supposed to mean, according to this, if we translate it into English, is to go ahead doesn't mean you have arrived.
Okay, let's do a round robin, basically. And then you can tell us what it means to each of you. We can start with you, Adrian. What does that mean to you when you hear that? How does that resonate with you?
That it's all part of the journey. And yeah, that's all part of the journey. That there's no arriving. It's a continuous process. And I think about it in terms of life. Yeah, you might achieve one thing, but that doesn't mean that's the end. There's more.
Indeed. Okay. Next, Colbert, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I may maybe agree with Adrian to that extent that, arriving and being ahead are two different things. Okay? So arriving probably may be speaking about achieving. And being ahead does not necessarily mean that you have achieved. Okay. Being ahead means there's somebody behind you.
It's like if you're number one in class 1, there's up to...
It's number 1 in class 2.
And then there's secondary school.
Right.
And then there's post-secondary school.
Yeah.
So
you are ahead of something.
Yes. What do you think?
What do you think, Ava? Am I saying that right, Ava?
I'll be doing a disservice if I take a...
Please do a disservice, by all means. We welcome you to do the disservice,
no,
please.
Because honestly, I mean... I do agree with exactly what Eden has actually said. Literally getting ahead in life, if you look at it like from that angle, there's nothing else I can add to it, to be honest.
Actually, to be honest, you could have said a lot more.
If we're being honest.
Yes, but if that's what you want to say, the thing about an interpretation of a proverb is you cannot be wrong.
Okay, yes.
Perhaps you should have led with that.
Yes, because we're asking your opinion. Now, your opinion can't be wrong. It's your opinion.
It's my opinion.
Yes. You see, the diversity of interpretations is necessary because it tells you just how diverse our thinking and interpretation of issues are. And that's what we want to hear. We want to hear that diversity.
Indeed.
Yes. Yes.
Well, speaking of diversity, it's one of the issues around the topic that we're discussing this morning, and issues surrounding transgender persons in Kenya. And it's an open and an honest conversation about some of those issues. But let's start off from the very beginning with some definitions in the space that we're going to be discussing this today. Let's start off with you, Ava. Transgender. Who? What is transgender?
Transgender in the basic terms is, I'll explain like we're 5.
Let's do it.
Literally being born in the wrong body. From the sex you are assigned at birth to the gender identity you come to realize yourself to be. You're literally at crossroads with the way your body is read by society.
Okay. We're gonna need you to explain that now, that like we're 5, because you've used some words that are interesting. You've talked about assigned. You've talked about being in the wrong body. You've talked about a couple of other things. What exactly are we saying here? What is a transgender? Who is a transgender person?
A transgender person is you. It's me. It's someone else, right? As a human being, at the basis of it, with a very complex layer of the essence of who you are as a person. Basically, how you see yourself, who you see yourself as in terms of gender, right? Based on also how society reads gender roles, right? And so, for a transgender person, you're literally either born a boy or you're either born a girl. But the gender you feel yourself to be does not really correspond with the common understanding that, boys are born, with this type of genitalia. You're going to grow up and, become men in the future, for example. But then for transgender persons, it's literally quite the opposite, right? You find that the gender the person feels that they are, right, they come to realize themselves as they are, as they grow up, is totally different from the expectations of what society expects the kind of sex you're born as to manifest in terms of the gender later in life. So you find that there's that distinction, and that's what we call, that's who transgender people are.
Okay, so you were born male or female? Right?
Personally, I was born male, for example.
You were born male or female, but you do not feel male if you were born male, or you do not feel female if you were born female, and you feel the urge to then become what you feel. Is this what we're saying?
Literally. But then there needs to be a very big distinction between sex and gender. We tend to conflate the two a lot. And so if we talk about, male and female, we're talking about the biological anatomy, right? When we talk about gender, we're talking about, we'd say probably an abstract concept of how we view ourselves as people. For example, Colbert being born male, right? Colbert identifies as male at this point in time. All through his life, for example, he has not had any what we call incongruence, right? In terms of the way they feel, the way he feels rather. So basically, being born in a body that is of one sex, but then your gender is totally completely different. Yeah.
Colbert, how does somebody identify with gender? How do I identify as male or identify as female? Because for the longest time, it's who you are. You don't even have to think about identifying. You're a human being, you're a human being. You are a female, you are a female. You just go. If you're a male, you're a male. And we're having this discussion because if we're going to say we're going to open up ourselves to the realms of understanding, then we must understand the intricacies, because that's what we're doing here in terms of issues, right? How do you identify as opposed to just being?
I think, picking up from what Ava has said, there are two things here. There is the biological component of who you are, and there is the social component of you. When we are seated in this room, we are not displaying our biological components. What are we seeing when we are looking at each other? We are seeing the social component. I'm seeing how you're dressed. I'm seeing the hair you have plaited. I'm seeing, the dressing, the shirt you are wearing. I have not gone beyond there to see your biological component.
Actually, we do see the biological component. You have a beard. We don't associate beards with women. You have a mustache. We don't associate mustaches with women. You have a deep voice. We don't associate deep voices with women.
That is exactly what we are talking about. Then, Muga, if a woman starts talking in a deep voice, does she become a man?
No, she doesn't. But believe me, when you first come across a woman who has a deep voice,
the impression is that...
No, it's confusing.
Yes.
You know she's female,
yes,
but the deep voice... I say this because as you were speaking, I remember a girl I was with in primary school who had a deep voice.
Yes.
And it was the source of jokes that were poked at this poor girl for the longest time.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Some even nicknamed her the lion.
Yes.
Simply because of the deep voice that she had.
Yes.
So, you see, as we grow and as we are brought up, the identification factor is something that we are socialized into understanding.
Yes.
It's just socializing.
Yes.
And once we understand that, to change and consider that there may be an alternative, now that's the difficulty of the journey.
And that's where now gender comes in.
Yes.
How we have been socialized to see things. You have been socialized to believe that a person with a deep voice must be a man.
Accompanied by a beard, of course.
You have been socialized to see that a person with beards must be a man.
Yes. Right.
You have been socialized to see that a person dressed in trousers and suits like me must be a man. Okay? And that is exactly what we are saying, that there is a conflict with trans people between what they identified at birth. You see, at birth you don't have beards, my
No,
brother.
you don't.
At beards you don't have deep voice.
I agree with
At beards you don't even have clothes.
Actually, I was avoiding the distinctive identifiers, but since you brought it up, let me say it. At birth I had a penis, okay? And I've continued to have one.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
I have breasts,
Yes.
but they don't grow beyond the point where they're at. Even when I bodybuild,
Yes.
they just jet out just a little bit. Now, these are the identifiers, again, that we then have. So let me ask the question. If I have a penis and I say I am female, how does that work out?
The identifier that you're talking about at birth is just one.
Okay.
Have you at birth identified the chromosomes of that person? Have you looked at the gonads of that person? Have you looked at the hormones of that person at birth?
Now you see, when you not start getting biological, you confuse me completely.
Yes.
You know why? When do you come across even the word chromosome? At what point in your life?
Okay.
When you're in secondary school.
Yes.
Isn't it?
Yes.
And even I studied biology. I still don't understand chromosomes very well. I know there's X and Y.
Yes.
But beyond that, the rest is fuzzy. The point I'm trying to make it is that the existence of individuals who are transgender is a simple reality.
Yes.
But the explanation of it runs against the winds of what we've been socialized to understand.
You are right.
Yes.
You are right.
That is the
You're
point
right.
I'm trying to make.
You are extremely right on that.
Yes.
Adrian, where do you and how did these, and I think this now comes out when we're talking about the issues surrounding this matter, and there are many tags that have been applied, controversial, against morals and values, all sorts of things. Now, what are the elements of socialization that have been with us for so long that we know that we identify, and this is because the majority of people today identify male and female with certain characteristics and behaviors. That's why in the event that something poses as different and you react in your head, it is because it goes against what you have been used to. Am I right? Okay. What then are the elements of this socialization that we are saying we've been socialized to think this way or behave this way, and perhaps they have changed over time for certain people?
Right. Okay. So I will answer your question, but first I'd like us to understand something. There's an issue. There's a term called gender identity.
Okay.
Everybody has a gender identity. You have one. I have one. You have one. And gender identity is not learned. Okay. So in as much as we're going to talk about socialization, we also have to understand that there's an aspect of gender identity that is innate. No one teaches you that. Okay. And there's research on this as well. Now, what transgender persons go through is a difference between their gender identity, their mimi ni nani, and their sex. Okay? So, for example, as Eva has put out, you are born, okay? The identifier is your genitals, right? So your mom is told you've given birth to a baby boy. But because gender identity is innate and it is personal, okay? You grow up and you find that it is a totally different story. So for example, my case, I was born female, okay? And I was brought up as a girl, okay? But gender identity, like I've said, it is innate. So what happened? As I was growing up, I started realizing that I was more predisposed towards the guy's side. I liked playing sports as the boys did. I liked the roughness. Yeah? I found myself in line with the kind of dressing that they had. That is when I realized that there was an issue. Okay? Now, puberty started, right? And as we've said, sex is the biological makeup. The biology, it stays, right? So there's hormones there that are involved. There's the chromosomes that you don't want us talking so much about. But yes.
I was taught about it, but I still don't. I'm still fuzzy about it.
Can I tell you something?
Please.
Do you know that we are all born and we get a chromosome, that's the chromosome X, from our mother? And you know what that means? That we, at all of us, at some point, started as females. Yes.
Okay. At what point?
All of us started as females because we are getting the X.
At what point did I start as a female?
Everybody.
Oh, so I'm not alone.
Everybody. When you are born, you get the X chromosome from your mother.
Yes.
Okay? And you all start as female. What makes the difference is the chromosome that the father contributes.
Okay.
So your father can give an X. That way, it initiates the body to start producing hormones that are predisposed to the female side, as well as the genitals. If the father contributes the Y, okay, you get a male. You get the hormones produced, testosterone, and the formation of the genitalia.
Yes.
Okay? You understand that? And during that time, studies have shown that at that point, gender identity starts coming up. So for transgender persons, what I like thinking about it is this way. That this is a person whose brain instructed the body to do something and the body did not.
Why?
Because, like I've said for my case, right? My gender identity is man. Okay? But my body did not correspond with that. You understand? For one reason or another. And the studies are there. Okay? So, what happens to this person as they're growing up? Because you're not stopping what is the sex. So at puberty, you realize that transgender persons have a lot of distress.
So, sorry.
And
so you're not
yes.
stopping what biologically is going to occur?
No. You cannot
can't
stop
that because it is already set.
It's there.
That is what is going to happen.
It's there.
Okay.
Okay. And so transgender persons go through what is called gender dysphoria. And this dysphoria is basically the distress. For example, if today you woke up and you are in a female body, you had breasts, very big breasts, you had hips, you had a vagina, how would you feel? And we joke about this a lot.
Why are you locating big breasts?
Even small ones then. There's no problem with small ones. But I just want you to understand the kind of distress that you would be in. You joke about it for an hour or two, but then after that it becomes serious and you'll get very uncomfortable. That is the situation that transgender persons find themselves in. We have a situation of, I like putting it this way, the software not matching with the hardware. And if the software is not matching with the hardware, what do you fix? You fix the hardware.
You know,
and now that fixing is what we call transitioning. It is the transitioning process and the transitioning journey of transgender persons.
You know, this topic is interesting because it's clear that it's a clear departure from what we are socialized into understanding. Not very long ago, we had an individual, a lovely person in this studio, an intersex person.
Yes.
Now, when you may read about it, it is a very different experience when you actually talk to someone who is intersex and they explain to you and you listen. And the thing that comes to my mind is that what you're saying, you wonder, my goodness, what has this person had to go through? Because this is not what they're choosing. That is exactly how they are. Yes. That is their reality. But it's fighting against what is considered the norm. That's a difficult journey. That is probably exactly very appropriate, isn't it?
Ava, what are some of the issues that then are surrounding this? Because I mean, establishment of what it is, and we're not even going to go into, because it's a whole kettle of, another kettle of fish, what people's thoughts are when it comes to, their feelings and their values and their morals and all of that. Okay, what are the issues that we are dealing with today, and is it in Kenya, for example, such an issue that these issues surrounding transgender then must be discussed or brought to the limelight?
Definitely. There are a lot of issues that need to be discussed. Adrian just highlighted, a couple of them. One is a struggle with your own existence, your own body. And this is a journey that you have to go through by yourself. Because then again, who else understands what you're going through more than yourself? In most families, parents don't get to see what we call the components that is gender identity. So whatever they do see is behavior, right? And so your problems kind of start from there to begin with. Because then again, we are social beings. How, again, as Adrian was saying, you're wired as a person, right? To exist, to be, is not something that people even within your own nuclear family really understand. And so your problems start there in terms of what are you? Who are you? Your parents, I remember my parents asking me, okay, you're dressing differently today, what's going on? What's this journey you're on? Is it a phase for you that you're dressing differently? What type of behaviors have you picked up probably from elsewhere? And so this problem starts. This problem with families is the debut for every other challenge that you might face in life. Because many trans people are actually homeless from a very young age. So that means they have to...
Why is that? Homeless? Sorry, I have to interject on that. Homeless, why?
Because parents don't want to be associated with...
So they kick them out of home?
Yes, they're kicked out of homes. Mm-hmm. And so most of them have to fend for themselves at a very young age. So that means if you were going to school, that has to stop. If you had any, benefits, a roof over your head, healthcare, all those are things that are actually gone. But then your challenge only gets, a bit more difficult from there. Because then again, Adrian mentioned something about transitioning, living authentically as yourself. So one of the things is, as Adrian was saying, you fix the hardware, which is the body, right? Because the gender identity, that the component that is you as a person, will always want to, be manifest and just be forward. Mm. And so, you're going to have a lot of internal stigma about some of these feelings that you have about, belonging to the wrong body. And so that really spikes up a lot of mental health conditions and issues for you as a person. Because then again, you're homeless. You're also struggling to, come to terms with yourself at a very young age. What are you feeling? What are you going through? How can you address some of these issues? And so you find a lot of people are lost as to what to do with themselves. And so most often, because of these challenges, issues of suicide come up. And so most people I'd either stay alive or, choose not to, be around if I can't be myself. And so this is just one of the challenge that's core to it all.
Let's take a break and come back and look at some more of those issues in around transgender persons in Kenya and in different parts of the world. It's 27 minutes to 9 o'clock. The conversation continues. To take a break right now and be back shortly after this.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Attention to all the fun-loving children out there. It's time for the Club Kiboko Family Fun Day. This year, it is bigger, better, and we have lined up a day out for the whole family where kids can run around while parents get to relive fun childhood memories all over again. From great entertainment, food and games ranging from quad biking, virtual reality, PlayStation competitions, trampolines, horse riding, and more, you better be ready. And for the parents, we haven't left out that little child in you too. You're in for fun rounds of kati, blada, bano, rounders, karaoke, and even our very own cooking competition. So bring your kids and join in on the fun too at the Ulinzi Sports Complex on Saturday, 27th of April. Head over to tickethub.co.ke or ticketsasa.com today and purchase your tickets at 500 shillings for kids and 300 shillings for adults. Come let loose and have the time of your lives at the Club Kiboko Family Fun Day. Experience the vibrant pulse of Africa at Festac Africa Festival 2024 in Kisumu. Join us for a week-long celebration of culture, music, fashion, and more from May 20th to 26th. Dive into sustainable growth with food, art, education, and youth empowerment. Don't miss Africa's premier Pan-African and global cultural exchange program. Get your tickets now. One day for 500 Kenya shillings or the full week for 2,000 Kenya shillings. Kisumu County welcomes the world to be part of Africa's forward movement. Act fast and secure your spot in this unforgettable journey. To register, just go to www.festacafrica.org.
I've got a plan to make my investment portfolio more diverse than a DJ's vinyl collection.
ICEA Lion has a plan for everyone. Talk to us today for a plan that's right for you. Or visit icealion.co.ke. ICEA Lion, what's your plan?
Shopping smart and saving big only happens in your city. Huge savings at the first ever Sarit Mega Sale happening April 27th to 30th at Sarit Expo. Enjoy jaw-dropping discounts of up to 70% on your favorite brands. It's the shopping event of the year at Sarit, the ultimate retail destination in Eastern Central Africa. Earn and redeem points with the Sarit Loyalty app, available on Google and Apple Store, and enjoy the convenience of prepaid parking and gift vouchers. Visit SaritYourCity.com for details. Shop smart and save big. Only at Sarit, your city. Do you have the passion, the interest to tell a story to the world in your own style? Well, we're ready to take you in and help you grow your talents in the media industry. The Standard Group, in partnership with Talanta Institute, is offering a media training and incubation program courtesy of Standard Talanta Academy, where we nurture and guide industry talents on an array of topics from writing, reporting, media law and ethics, investigative journalism, and research to the Kenya Copyright Board, Kenya Film Commission, and the Kenya Films and Classification Board legal frameworks. To apply to the Standard Talanta Academy for our upcoming May intake, visit www.talanta.ac.ke or call 0724 468 468. The Standard Talanta Academy.
The weather with SpiceFM.
Cloudy conditions in Nairobi this morning. We'll see highs of 23, highs of 24 in a partly sunny Nakuru. Nyeri will see highs of 25 and Eldoret will see highs of 24. Looking into a cloudy Mombasa at 25 and a cloudy Malindi at 27. It's 23 and cloudy in Kisumu with 20 and cloudy conditions in Kakamega. Kampala raining at 21 and it's cloudy at 25 in Dar es Salaam. Johannesburg is sunny at 18 and into Mogadishu 31 and sunny, 16 and sunny in Addis Ababa. It's clear at 26 in Lagos and mostly cloudy at 24 in Kinshasa.
Spice FM. Spice up your life.
We are into traffic hour, and that's for sure. There's some traffic coming off the Thika Superhighway, but nothing too sticky, so that's fantastic. It's a little bit crazy on Kiambu Road. There's traffic coming in all the way from the DCI headquarters gate coming through towards Muthaiga Square, so watch out for that. Some movement coming out of Westlands as well. Red Hill Link Road crossing over from James Gishoro will have a little bit of traffic there, but it's going to be, done in a short while from what we can see. Lower Kabete Spring Valley, in and outbound traffic is doing the thing there, not quite sure what's causing that. So Moy Avenue is an absolute mess. Whole tree fell down in the middle of the road because of rain. So yeah, that doesn't look very fun right now. So there's a lot of things going around. One thing we're going to ask everybody to do this morning is be very careful. Let's talk just in case anything does get sticky. SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
All right, back into our conversation at 21 minutes to 9 o'clock. Our guest this hour, as we look at issues surrounding transgender persons in the country. Ava Mrima is the communications lead at Jinsiagu, Kenya. Adrian Kibe is a program assistant at the Kenya Human Rights Commission and an advocate of the High Court. Colbert Ojambo is with us this morning. So we're looking at some of those issues surrounding transgender persons in Kenya. Or in whatever space, really. And I think that, just as Siti was saying, sometimes you're met with these issues, and the one most issue is complete misunderstanding of whatever is going on. So because I do not understand it, I am going to be against it because it is an uncomfortable space for me. Would you say that those are one of the issues that you then face, or that anybody in this space then has to grapple with when it comes to understanding all of this?
Yes, definitely. I mean, people fear what they don't know, or what they don't understand, and the first reaction is always offense. But then again, it's a very long journey towards understanding anything, literally, and getting there is quite a process. But when we stop seeing the person as a human being, we've lost sort of our humanity at some point in time, because again, trans people are just human beings living a very human experience with a challenge that nobody else other than them as a community really definitely understand. And so we need more people to actually kind of see that at the end of the day, we are in a human experience as people.
But why should anybody strive or even bother to want to understand what these issues are? Why should anybody want to understand something that goes against what they've been conditioned, socialized, normalized to live with? Why should anybody make an effort to understand this very confusing thing?
I must say, because we live in a society, we don't live on an island. We interact on daily basis. We have trans people within our communities, and so it's only fair that we understand who they are, what challenges they are going through, and this is also to help us in terms of accommodating each other.
Do you know that they've always existed in, let me talk about African society.
Yes.
Transgender people have always existed.
Yes.
And you would find that the acceptance of the transgender community was demonstrated in the roles that they played within the society. And they're very accepted roles, and they're very elevated roles, meaning they could rise up in society and be what everybody else could be.
Yes.
Okay. Now, what we are discussing here, at the end of the conversation, I was saying, the colonial understanding of it, because when they came here, they did come across transgender people, and they did find roles in which the African communities had accepted and had normalized in the way that they could. Now, one of the facets of colonialism was to subjugate and to force people into specific roles that the colonizer determined.
Yes.
See? Now, when that narrative takes place, what it therefore means is that even your understanding of what you've lived with has to change to conform with what they are now prescribing.
You're right.
Okay? Let me give an example of a term, polygamy.
Yes.
The role and the place of polygamy in an African society was actually very clear. And if you talk to people who understood how and why it was practiced, it was not difficult to understand why.
You're right.
Now, if you look at polygamy and the role it played in harmonizing communities, it becomes even clearer why it became even more important. And it wasn't just with Africans. No. Very many communities on this planet understood it. But with the advent of the Christian faith as was understood by the British who brought it, I'm specific, as it was understood by the British who brought it, then forced, among other things, people to understand certain norms that had been accepted in African society as wrong.
Yeah.
Okay? So even that little understanding of, okay, why do these people do this as they do it? It was wrong because it didn't conform to the norms that they wanted to inculcate. Okay, now, if you have that mindset, it's a mindset of intolerance.
Yes, you're right.
So now, you tell me when you come across somebody who is different from you, and that is your mindset. Just different. The only thing is, they're different. Otherwise, they're just as human as you are. Your initial reaction is intolerance.
Yes.
And you want them to be as far away as possible from you as possible. And you want to treat them as inhumanly as you possibly can, because in your mind, they are not like you. So if they're not like you, they can't be human. But how do you communicate so that people stop running away and fearing and reacting negatively and accepting and saying, you know something, this person is a brother or a sister to somebody else.
And that's the question of understanding that you asked. I think that's now answers spirit very well.
Yes.
We have to understand this person to realize that, oh, it's just like you and me. Okay? There is no difference. So that stigmatization, that fear, that intolerance then has to pave way for acceptance.
Okay. Also understanding what goes on in the mind, because from what Ava and Adrian have said, that there's a mind over matter issue here. That it was not what you saw, it is how you felt right? So what did you feel? I'd really like to know. So when we're saying growing up, I mean, obviously you can't tell me what happened before you were 1, 2, before you were 3 years old. Forget it. Because if you say when I was 2.5, this is how I felt, I will tell you you're lying because you can't really remember, especially something as complex as this, right? Yeah. But when you were growing up, from an infant, when you could have those memories and being a child playing, etc., etc., because we're going to remember those things, can't we? What did you feel that would tell you, yes, because like you said, you were born female. Biologically, you were a girl.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
What did you feel that would then make you, in your head, think that you were different?
Okay. Right. So, first of all, I think the earliest memory I have is when I was, I think, 5 or 6. And it was the first time we were going to the coast. And I got heat rashes. And I remember my mom said, "Uko Mombasa sasa, there's no need for all these clothes." And so I remember the thrill of not wearing a shirt, of being in shorts the whole day and just basking in the sun. It was the best the best feeling in the world. So that itself was one of the things. The other thing I do recall is now during puberty, when the changes started. And one of the things that I struggled with was the development of my chest. As he's put it, his chest can only grow to a certain level.
Wow.
So when that changed, I became very uncomfortable. That distress, that discomfort, I know it very well. And for you as a person who's listening, because there's a high chance that you're not trans, the one way to think about it is what I said. If today you are put in a body that's not yours, how would you feel? You'd be very uncomfortable. You'd get stressed and depressed. And that is exactly what I felt. Now, it's important to understand that those feelings that I had, that is what we are calling gender dysphoria. Okay? But the gender identity itself, just something saying to me, you know, you are this is not where you belong.
So it's not telling you what you are, but it's telling you that you shouldn't be here. Because then one would ask, how would you know that this identity would be able to tell you where you should be going if at a young age you're really not even sure of what those things are anyway?
Okay. So how the question is how to tell.
So is your gender identity essentially telling you that something is amiss as opposed to telling you this is what you actually are?
I think it's a mix of both. Okay. It's a mix of both, because yes, you're not where you're supposed to be in terms of the body that you're in, but also this is who you are. You are a man, you are a guy, you are a boy, and let me give you a better example. The best way to understand this is to put it in the general public's terms. If a man, for example, like unfortunately it's just you today.
We've given you permission to use CT as the SIU.
So now
you can add some more features.
So now CT is, let's say he's married, and the wife gets into quarrels with him. We've seen this happening, and the wife chops off his genitals, and she's very upset, so she even throws the genitals to the dogs. Ouch. So now we're rushing CT to hospital. We've given him first aid. And now, you know, the first thing is kutengeneza mali for him to be able to, you know, go to the toilet, right? As he is, will he now start saying, I am a woman? Nipatieni rinda, badilisheni jina yangu? He'll not say that. Because as of himself, he knows. Gender identity is the internal sense of self. It's the understanding of who you are. And that is exactly it.
Can gender identity be influenced?
No.
It cannot be influenced.
And I think I just started off by saying that gender identity, everyone has a gender identity, right? And if you think about like how can you influence gender identity, again, we've grown up in situations where we have, you know, it's a diverse, you know, family. Like a nuclear family, you have there's the father, there's the mother, you have also, you know, sisters, brothers, all mixed up together. None of them influence each other to, you know, okay, today I want to, you know, be a guy, tomorrow I want to be, you know, a woman, and that sort of like stays consistent in that sense. For transgender people, it's literally the same. Your gender identity, what you were born with, the sense of self, That's what we're calling gender identity. Gender identity is an aspect of the sense of self. It remains constant. It does not change. And otherwise, we normally talk all the time, like who would want to choose a journey of, being trans? Because again, all these other challenges that you have to face are, quite excruciating. For example, some of us don't even have IDs for years. You cannot access M-Pesa, bank accounts, employment is a problem. So compounding all these factors again, you're also struggling with your body, and also the stress that comes with, as we were talking earlier, being considered a deviant in society. Then how are you going to navigate this space and be mentally stable? Again?
How is employment an issue? Explain to us how employment becomes an issue.
So one is, again, when you transition, if you look at myself and Adrian, we're both trans, right? When I was born, I was assigned male at birth, right? And so when I was 18, the ID that I got, read with the names that I was given by my parents, right? But then transitioning later, and me presenting as I do now, going to a place with that old ID, someone assumes I'm impersonating another person.
So you had an ID previously. So prior to transition, you had an ID, and that ID identified as male
with male names.
With male names.
So going to an M-Pesa shop or just employment with all my school documents, trying to apply, for a position. And the first thing someone would ask, whose documents are this? Where are your documents? So the person they're looking at and the person in the documents, they don't match up. And so who will even consider giving you employment?
Or who would consider that you're not crazy?
Yeah.
Because that's true. Yeah.
Yes, and so that's sort of like one of the biggest challenges, especially. We talked about, the internal sense of self where you have to struggle with these feelings of, I'm transgender, what does this mean? There's so many things to think about your health, your future as well. Employment falls into that, and then the issues also of, legal recognition. So when can I walk into a place and, the documents that I have serve me as a person? So employment-wise, that's one big challenge. So you find that most people, even the informal type of employment is very difficult for them to also sustain.
Colbert, what's the legal position for transgender people in Kenya today?
I think as Eva has explained, bring out those challenges. We have personal challenges there, we have social challenges there, we have medical challenges there, but again, as you have asked, we also have legal challenges. You see, once the person now has transitioned the way Edjan and you have transitioned, we must then accommodate them within our legal spaces, because we have a society that is structured alongside gender lines. We have structures for women, we have structures for men, we have schools for boys, we have schools for girls, we have toilets, all everything's divided alongside gender lines. And we have a person who has transition. And when they transition, the way they have a transition, some of the things are left behind. For example, she has just mentioned academic certificates, she has mentioned IDs, she has mentioned many other identification documents that are left behind. These are legal documents, and so it's only fair that then we also align these documents to match the person that we are looking at. If they are going to exist with us, if they are going to secure jobs, if they are going to live a normal life, then the law must also align. And so in terms of legal spaces, well, of course the laws apply equally to everybody.
Has the law aligned? The laws in this country, have they aligned?
Not in every aspect. Okay, there are areas, for example, Eva has mentioned ID cards, birth certificates. You see, to get an ID card or a passport, we rely on birth certificates.
Yes.
Our birth certificates rely on birth notifications. Birth notifications rely on reporting by the mother or the midwife or whoever is assisting in the process of birth. And it is basically about looking at what is between your legs and then fixing it there. But as you have been told, as this person grows and comes out, there are changes that happen that are not happening on the birth certificate.
Let me ask something specific.
Yes.
Were you able to ensure that the documentation, school certificates, IDs, qualifications that somebody has, are you able to transition them in this country?
In this country, where we have, it has been in the news, the case of Audrey Mbugua, that was a case about academic certificates. That is a matter that we had to go to court about. And the court said, indeed, academic certificate belongs to this person. It is only this person who can benefit from that academic certificate. The court ordered the National Examination Council to amend the details in the academic certificate, to change the name and to remove. I don't know whether you noticed that our academic certificate had a gender sex mark on them.
Yes. But
the court was very...
Did the Kenya National Examination Council amend?
They amended. Okay. That one I can say they amended. The issue of change of names, the law allows change of names, and we have been applied for change of names for trans people, and that happens. So that's one aspect that the administrators or the government has consistently done for trans people. They have allowed change of names, but the outcome is we had to go to court at some point. But as we speak, they are allowed to changing names. But when it comes now to changing that name in the document, for example, the birth certificate, the law does not say you cannot change. But it's the person who is implementing the law who has put the barriers.
Okay.
When it comes to IDs, we have had to go to court. Now, they currently change the names in the IDs, but they don't change the gender mark. So the name reads Eva, but the gender mark remains
male.
Which also means that we are limited with that gender marking. We only have male, female. We don't have any space for transgender.
But they are not saying put T or trans. They are saying, I am F.
You know why I mentioned this?
Yes.
If you are to inculcate the process of acceptance among people, people must first come to accept that transgender people are people like everybody else.
You are right.
If that is not accepted, and we are still stuck with the male and female identity, that problem will persist.
You are right. And also some of the struggles we are going through. So I think for me it's not an issue of whether the law provides or not. It's the issue of implementation. Remember, these laws were passed. We got this. You talked about bringing these laws into this country. Which year was that? These issues were not there. They were not the fore. And so the law cannot remain the way it was 1954, 1955, 1960. The law must then move with the changes in the society. And we are saying the problem is not even with the law. The problem is how we interpret and apply that law.
Adrian, really quickly for you, because our seconds are winding down, have you found that as you've moved along in this journey, has society, have people become more accepting of you once they've understood a little bit more about you?
Yes, and in fact it comes as a surprise to many. You start saying I'm trans and they're like, oh wait, and so you've been with me, you've experienced me, then now I put in the aspect of I am trans, and you just see, oh yeah, this is actually just a dude like any other, and so the more society understands, the more the ability to withstand or live alongside transgender people. The minute you stop thinking that these are some weird creatures somewhere, and you just see it's an actual human being like you and I, then your thinking shifts.
Well, changing narratives happens by having conversations. Thank you very much for being here, all of you, this morning. Colbert Ojambo is an advocate of the High Court. Adrian Kibe is a program assistant at the Kenya Human Rights Commission, and Ava Mrima, the communications lead at Gisiangu, Kenya. Thank you for being here this morning. Asante sana.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
9 a.m.
Lubanga. 38 people have died following the ongoing floods various places in the country. Red Cross Disaster Officer Venant Ngila says more than 110,000 families across the country have also been affected by the floods within the last 24 hours.
It is bad, it is a disaster, even as at now, because the people who we find mostly getting affected are the people who don't have alternatives. We are trying as much as possible with our resources, with our teams in the field, to do the risk map, to map those populations who are at risk.
Nairobi County is also leading in the number of flood victims following Tuesday night's heavy downpour that fell two of the oldest trees within the city's capital. The two gigantic trees located at the Kenya and Moi Avenue intersection outside the Nairobi Sports House and Imenti House were uprooted and blocked the key entry and exit points. Elsewhere in Athi River, residents are calling for help after their homes were submerged in water. Activist Emily Mukomunene says they're unable to leave their homes to attend to their daily needs.
I've been called by some of our cancer patients who are stuck at the river. Their houses are flooded. We need emergency response. Please, somebody help, or who can reach the Kenya Red Cross. It's grassland at the river. We need emergency response. People are drowning in their homes and in their houses. Kindly help. Kindly send your rescue team to Graceland at the river.
This event comes as a section of some roads have been affected by the rains, including Thika Road at the KU and also along Jogo Road. With 3.5 billion shillings put on the table to cater for doctors' arrears, the national and county government have still failed to convince doctors to return to work. KMPDU officials Davji Atela and Dennis Miskela says the main issue, which is intern doctors' allowances that led to the strike, is yet to be resolved.
I want to challenge the government that, as doctors have said, kindly take the 18 issues back. We don't want them. Just implement the one issue remaining, the interns. But still, they don't let you to take the change and keep. Just sort the interns. For us, that's the reason why the deal will go through until we learn.
Head of Public Service Felix Kaskei, COG Chair Anwai Guru and Health CS Susan Nahumicha, however, says that doctors are now being insensitive as 18 out of their 19 issues have already been resolved, ordering them to return to work immediately.
It is most unfortunate that the doctors have deliberately refused and ignored or disregarded the courtesies extended to them. The doctors are therefore insensitive to the suffering and plight of the vulnerable Kenyans in dire need of health services. We wish to reiterate that all county-specific issues, as raised by the union, were adequately agreed upon.
Would like to confirm that the Ministry of Health has managed to get 3.5 billion for payment of salary arrears from 2017 to 2024 June. This will be paid in 5 installments each financial year. Equally, the ministry has received 2.4 billion for payment of internship.
Well, this event comes as it's 42 days now since health services were paralyzed across all public hospitals in the country. Police are investigating the death of an employee of a bus whose body was discovered in a lodging he had booked along Kirinyaga Road, Nairobi. His colleagues said he had checked into the guest house while complaining of chest pains, only to be found dead the next day. Elsewhere in Embakasi Kware, a 31-year-old woman died after taking her supper. Police say Rosalie Nyabuto started to complain of pains, later vomited blood and had breathing difficulties before being rushed to hospital where she died. And in other news, police are investigating an incident in which an elderly man died by suicide in Ndwara area, Dagoretti, Nairobi. The body of Joseph Mbatia was found dangling in his house with a motive yet to be revealed. That's the News Wire. I'm Leah Obaga.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Revenge is for children. It's for kids. When you grow up, you realize the best revenge you can take on somebody is to ignore them.
Now, I'm just new in politics. It is not everybody's cup of tea. That's why some people come in one term and that's it for them.
political parties in this country do not have ideologies, whether luring or otherwise.
And that is the effect of corruption.
Any time an offense occurs anywhere in the country, it is the job of the Inspector General to look into it. Whether it's corruption, whether it's murder, whether it's petty, that is his job.
If we have chosen to be a corrupt nation, then we produce corrupt leaders. Everything then becomes chaotic that you cannot be able to change a nation.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
All right, so traffic in the city this morning, a few minutes after 9 o'clock, is already doing the thing. It has been for about a couple of hours, but I think it's starting to dwindle. On the Thika Superhighway, we're just seeing that little bit of it left at the Pangani underpass through the tunnel and out into the city, your final Murang'a Road. A little bit of it coming in through the Globe Cinema overpass. And then as you get into the city via Jogoo Road, there's nothing on Landis. A little bit of it as you get to Haile Selassie. And there was all that movement on Kangundo Road this morning, Eastern Bypass, heavy with traffic as you're coming towards Outer Ring. And there's still some coming in from Cabanas towards North Airport Road. But apart from that, I think we'll manage that and see what happens when we come out of traffic hour, shall we? Yes. Let's talk on SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Into the final hour of Kenya's biggest conversation this Wednesday. It's a few minutes after 9 a.m., 8 minutes after 9 a.m. And as we're getting into it this morning, my guest is already seated with us. You know how they look for things? Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know how people look for things?
Yep.
But she's here with us today, and we're very happy that she is. Fatma Barayan is the chairperson of the Youth Enterprise Development Fund, and she's here as our guest this hour. Fatma, good morning.
Good morning, Du. Good morning, City.
Good morning.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Very well. Good to have you in the hot seat this morning.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah? Should we add finally?
In the most challenging panel.
Should we add finally, or we just let it go for now?
Let go for that.
We let it go for now?
Yeah, but I extend my apologies. Yeah.
Why? Don't worry.
We understand.
Yes.
and this is not to placate you.
Yes.
We actually do. Yes, we understand how things work sometimes. Yes.
Thank you.
All the same. Yeah, very good to have you here. And on top of that, Citi even wants to welcome you properly. So Citi has proverbs. He goes to different African countries. This week, we traveled to the Republic of Congo. This time, he let me come with him. But, you know, he's going to give you the proverb. Tell us what you think about that.
This is not to be confused with Congo DRC. This is Congo Brazzaville. Yes, that country next to Chad. Okay? To go ahead doesn't mean you have arrived. That is a proverb.
Do you want me to translate it to like the Swahili proverb whereby they say kutangulia sio kufika?
Basi ushasema lakini sasa tafsiri tafadhali.
Yeah, okay. That will mean that in life, it doesn't matter who gets where they want to be first. It's all about, I will simply say the end justifies the means. Yeah. Yes.
Okay. The end justifies the means.
Yes.
Yeah, true.
See, one of the beautiful things about asking our guests to interpret, we were saying it in an earlier hour, is the diversity of interpretation.
I know.
Yes, that's what gives this particular proverb even greater richness.
Indeed. treasure, gems, and that's what we're talking about today.
Exactly.
Apparently there's a gem in the Youth Enterprise Development Fund. But so you as the chairperson of the fund, let's just get into it this morning and ask, first of all, we hear so many funds, women's fund, fund, and then there's one for the youth, but this one specifically is enterprise. Okay, just do for us an overview. What's this fund about? Who is it for? What is it about?
Okay, thank you so much, Ndu. Allow me to give a brief history on Youth Fund. The Youth Enterprise Development Fund commenced in 2006, and the same transformed into a state corporation in 2007 under the legal order number 3. And Youth Enterprise Development Fund, its core mandate is to support the youth through enterprise development by providing access to credit, also as well to provide with them marketing and linkages support. Also, as Youth Fund, we also engage youth on entrepreneurship skills, among other trainings. It is our core mandate, also guided by the Constitution of Kenya, Article 55, to ensure that the youth have access to job employment, as well as access to education and training, and also to associate themselves or be represented in matters political, social, and economic spheres of life. So Youth Fund comes in here to support the youths, to ensure that the Kenyan youth are able to create their own job employment and also employment for the other youths within the country. Yes.
Where do the funds for the fund come from?
Pardon?
Where do the funds
for
the fund come from?
We have disbursements from the Exchequer. We also receive grants and donations from different stakeholders, as well as we have our own income generating programs like the commercial infrastructure. Like in the course of Youth Fund, we have been having a department specifically for commercial infrastructure, whereby at some point we had stalls whereby we could rent them out to youth so that they can conduct their businesses. So through these stores we generate income, and as a board, when we joined, we have also re-engineered and strategized to have other ways of generating income for the fund. We also get the interest from the loans, and I will also say and appreciate that the interns from the public service, that's a way, it's also a resource for the fund, because it helps on cost cutting, and we get to get so many youths working for the fund and ensuring that they give the support to the rest of the youths of this nation. Yes.
So how does it work exactly?
Okay, when a youth walks in our office to acquire the loan, the first thing they do is they come up with a concept. So when they walk in with a concept, we try to understand so that they can give a proof of the concept. And we normally have our officers, a department in charge of enterprise development that takes them through this concept and also coming up with the business proposals. Thereafter, we try to give them a platform for prototyping, just to see whether this whatever concept or business idea they have is viable out there. So thereafter, we offer them the loans, because we have different types of loan products depending on whether it's a group or individual or those venturing in talent or agriculture. So when we give them the loans, we make sure that we have officers in each and every county. So our officers will be visiting their businesses, and as they visit, they always monitor on whether the business is still is continuing, is it sustainable, and they tend to engage with them and interact with the youth just to find out, in any event that the business is not really doing well, what could be the problem. And at that instant, the officers provide them with solutions, and also encourage them not to give up, because when you're starting a business, the best thing that we need to understand is that we need to be patient. And then the biggest mistake that the youth will make is that they always there's lack of foresight. You always want to do a business just to get a job, but that's not the point here. Yeah.
Orman, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you?
I am a mother of 2. I am an advocate by profession, and I am the chairperson of the Youth Enterprise Development Fund Board.
Before you became chairman of the Youth Development Enterprise Forward-Going Movement Youth Assistance, before all this, what did you do?
I was vying for women rep seat in Mombasa under the UDA ticket.
Yeah.
So I'm also a politician. Yes.
Well, that is a very, 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 very good thing. Why did you go into politics?
Okay, I always have an interest at heart, especially for the women, and that is why I decided to vie for that post. I am an advocate by profession, as I mentioned, and it is through representation of women's rights. I realized that, like, for example, in Mombasa, we tend to see that most of the women they lack awareness. They like to be involved. There's lack for them to be involved in most of the political, economic, even social spheres, and that is why I started by registering a foundation which I ran, and has started doing most of the community work, which were mostly based on women and youths, and also PWDs. So it is through this, and also by providing pro bono services to the people of Mombasa. It is through this that the women of Mombasa, and since it was my passion, we all agreed that I think it's time we need a leader. The mistake that happens in Mombasa is that people tend to fail and choose the right leaders, sorry to say, but, and that is why we are advocating for the youth for this nation to forget about the KRA. Allow me to say, tunaitaga KRA ama mheshimiwa nikatie during elections. That's the biggest mistake that KRA. Youths, yeah.
What does it stand for?
You know, you'll get so many people telling you that mheshimiwa tujakula, mheshimiwa hivi, and it's so unfortunate that during election, the very day of election, you'll tend to see that most of these leaders, they tend to buy off those votes. And, you know, our people forget about all that they have seen in a leader. And, you know, people make mistake by voting in the wrong people.
Okay.
And that is why we don't even get a chance to be on the table to discuss matters, policy as youth or even women, or to implement what any leader through their manifestos told the people that this is what I'm going to do when I become your leader.
So you come from Mombasa County?
Yes.
Now, outside the position of women rep, as we call it,
yeah,
how many elected women leaders do you have in Mombasa County?
Quite a number of MCAs, and I will say 2 MPs. That will include the Member of Parliament Likoni, Honorable Mishi Mboko, and the women rep, the current women rep.
Which means the people of Mombasa are willing to elect women into positions of authority.
Yes.
All right, now let's go back to the Youth Fund. From the time you took over as chair, how many new groups or individual youths have this enterprise managed to assist?
Let me be honest with you, CT. I came to know of Youth Fund at the time of my appointment. I wouldn't want to say shame, but allow me to say shame. And immediately, as a board, we decided that the most important thing that we need to do is to make sure that people out there know the value of Youth Fund, especially the youths of this nation. And that is why you will agree with me. You can confirm that ever since this board came into place, Youth Fund has been more visible than before.
What have you done to make it more visible?
We started by, you know, I think in every organization, it all depends with the structures and whether people have that motivation to work. So as a board, we realized that the organizational structure and the staffs, there was a little bit of them not being motivated, I will say that. There were some few issues that we had to restructure our organization in terms of the organizational structure. And I'm proud to say that Youth Fund now, currently, there's gender diversity. You will see that out of 204 staffs, we have like 55.9 who are male and 44.1 who are female, unlike before. And the same applies that we have quite had many success stories through Youth Fund. We've been able to disperse around, when Youth Fund started, it was at 5B, and in 2021, 14.2, and currently 15 billion.
That is, those are the funds.
Those are the funds, yeah.
That
we have been
for the youth fund.
That we have been dispersing, and it's a revolving fund. So we get from the instant and the interest, and we keep on dispersing. Yeah. So in every county, like I will say, we have been able to create jobs opportunities, because so far we have been able to create job opportunities around, I would say, 1,985,000 thereabouts. Yeah. And you would agree with me that as far as SMEs, 70% of them fail, but at least we also contribute to the job creation in this country. Yeah.
What are some of the businesses? I mean, because I would assume that the youth fund is, of course, dispersing loans and hearing from people with, ideas that they would have for business. But I would assume also that there's the management thereafter. So, what kind of businesses have been established as a result of getting capital from the youth fund? Again, because one of the biggest cries from people who want to start businesses, they say that the biggest challenge to that is access to capital, right? So what are some of the things that we've seen having started as a result of funds that they've received from the fund?
Okay, first of all, allow me to say this. There was a complaint about youth fund and how to access credit because of the time frame. But it's important we make people realize that everything starts with a step, like I explained, from the concept to the finality. And as a board, one of the things that we have done is to amend our credit policies so that it can be reasonably accessible to the youths of this nation. Allow me to give examples. Some of the youths who have benefited from youth fund. I give an example of here in Nairobi. There's a youth who started a company. It's called Cheska Limited, and they've benefited through asset financing of 2.8 million. What they normally do is hiring cars, but now recently they were able to escalate and bought their own van. And another example I would like to give is in Bomet, a youth who engages in horticulture. He grows passion among avocados, among other fruits, and through this business he has been able to employ around 50 youths. And it all started with a sum of 100,000 and escalated to now almost 1.6 million. So when the youths come into youth fund, the starting point is from 100,000, and that is why you see most of them wanting to start businesses, because it is quite reasonable. Even the repayment methods are quite reasonable for them. So we have so many examples. We've had I visited Kisii last year, and I was really happy to see that one of the youths who had started a clinic was now, through youth fund, able to come up with a level 4 hospital. And I like the fact that the youths of this nation, they just don't do any business. It's like they're trying to provide solutions to the community. Like recently in Mombasa, youths who engaged me, and they wanted to, some parts of Mombasa there's a problem with water, so they have this project of water catchment, and we've been having discussions, and I'm trying to see how youth fund or other stakeholders can come in, because what they're trying to do is to solve that problem of water. So there are quite a number of success stories. The disbursements has been good in various counties, although we have some counties that it's still low because of like for example in the coastal and northeastern, the problem is with the interest. As Muslims, we're not allowed to take money with interest, but as a fund, again, through our strategic plan, we've re-engineered, and we are yet to launch our Sharia compliant product. So yeah, I think we're doing well so far.
Are we looking at lead time having reduced? Because like you said, that was one of the complaints from a lot of people, that we've tried to access the loans. By the time anybody even responds to us and even starts to look at our stuff, we have forgotten that we applied. How have you been able to look at some of those things?
We have digitized our systems. I realize most of the things were being done manually, but with the digitization and having a proper ERP systems, that now I will confirm that youths are able to get get loans within 2 weeks or latest 3. Initially, you'll tend to hear stories of people applying for the loan this month and getting the money after 6 months. Sorry to say. I'm giving the facts as, yes.
And now, what if somebody walks into the fund today, and is compliant, and then makes an application? What are you looking at in terms of timing?
Okay, it's like I said, 2 weeks, 3 weeks maximum. Because again, we have to undertake them through that training. Okay. That is why it's taking a little bit of time. Yeah.
You know, one of the things that has always baffled citizens like myself is whenever we hear of funding opportunities for the youth, what we hear of is, yes, people seeking to apply, and many who are not able to actually successfully get the loan. So now my question is, what is it that the fund does to ensure that those who are eligible actually understand how they can go about, even if they do not come to your offices? Yes, how do you ensure they actually understand these processes? Because sometimes somebody may simply fail because they don't understand the process. They don't know what to do. How do you ensure that they actually understand this process?
Okay, we normally create awareness in mashinani. Our officers visit most of the youths within the mashinani, as well as we try to create awareness through our social media platforms, through WhatsApp and even Twitter and even Facebook. And that is why I'm here. To inform them that actually Youth Fund exists. I mean, this is a way of also educating whoever wants to know about Youth Fund.
Let me explain why I'm asking the question further. For instance,
yes,
do you have a deliberate program, say for instance, in how many counties does the Youth Fund have a presence?
In 40, all counties.
Precisely. Now,
yes.
All these counties, say for instance, have radio stations like this one. They're not called the Situation Room. Some in vernacular. Some people understand messages best when it's in vernacular.
Yes.
Some like reading. Some like watching TV. Now, I think you know where I'm going with this.
Yes.
Precisely. Now, do you have a program of that sort so that everything that is possible, every medium that is possible, is used to ensure that the youth gets to hear, and in hearing, so that when your officers visit, they will have heard of the program? Because people do listen to radio, people do watch TV. They will have heard of it, and it makes it much, much easier. Now, beyond this, do you have set seminars, set sensitization processes where people know on this date, the Youth Fund are coming to talk about this, and they're coming to this hall in this place? Do you have such a scheme?
Yes, we do. We do have a work plan for, and also the staffs have a target. We give them targets, and most of the times, okay, I know sometimes they are budget constraints, but I am happy to say that I like the fact that most organizations and our other stakeholders who also engage us, whenever we place a proposal to them that we would like them to at least fund us to train the youths, they come through. So I will say that through my leadership, and that is why I've really insisted that it's important for every officer, including the CEO, now and often, to appear in these radio stations. Myself, I have been in several radio stations, not only in Mombasa, but also there's a time I went to Meru and I had an engagement with some of the radio stations there. And again, normally whenever we have these sessions, we also involve media so that people could understand and could hear us out and understand what exactly we do as a fund. Yes.
Have you found also that you've made the requirements easier to manage for applicants? Because again, that was another thing that came up, that the requirements were from here till
Kingdom Come
and back, and that you had to bring the former white goat of your grandfather's. I mean, everything that you could have to bring, you would need to bring just for you to seem as though you were then eligible. So have you been able to grade down on some of those things to then make it easier? Because if you talk about it being a hidden gem that people are not accessing, they say, well, all the things that they ask me to bring, it's more painful to apply. than to sit where I am.
Actually, I realized as youths, one of the problems that we have is that I don't know, we don't want people to know what we are doing. I think that's the issue. But I'll give an example. When I was in Narok, one of the requirements of Youth Fund is that as you apply for this loan, you must provide your bank accounts. And you see, the youths there are like, we are in where we are. Maybe even hardly a bank out here. Why would you ask us to provide bank statements? I mean, why not M-Pesa statements? And you see, okay, at some point they do have a point. The other thing, the most challenging is the fact that Youth Fund asks for securities, and that is one of the things as a board as we were strategizing, we decided that we need to do away with the matters security and introduce something else. Maybe reduce the amount of money that we give to the youth so that we help them grow and we don't add such things, and it can be a hindrance for them to access the credit. Yes.
Okay, let's take a break. It's 9:31, 29 minutes to the top of the hour. The chairperson of the Youth Enterprise Development Fund, Fatma Barayan, is our guest this hour, looking at the hidden gem that is the fund, and more as we come back after this.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Join us for the Sarit Mega Sale at Sarit Expo from April the 27th to the 30th with discounts up to 70% off. Enjoy incredible savings on beauty, fashion, food and more. Plus, get complimentary Wi-Fi and points with the Sarit Loyalty app and take advantage of exclusive offers. Tune in to Sugar and Spice every weekday from 11 a.m. to 3 o'clock with me, Yolanda Mulwa and DJ Absolute to learn more. Shop smart and save big only at Sarit, your city.
Busy in the city, but not too crazy. How has it been this morning? With the rain coming down in certain parts, still have to be careful wherever it is that you traverse. There's some traffic still coming off of the Eastern Bypass, and that's touching on Outer Ring and then going through towards North Airport Road, and also inbound. Very, very heavy traffic there this morning. Still has not let up for some time. Busy on Manyanja, busy on Kangunda Road, touching on Outer Ring, and then coming off of Jogo Road. On this other side, there's no traffic left now coming off a Thika Superhighway, but look at what's happening coming in from Limuru Road, well past Kitisuru, and then out towards Roslyn, and then touching in on different avenues of Parkland. Still very, very busy traffic there, and it's still also quite busy coming in from Lower Kabete, Kitisuru out towards Spring Valley. That's still going to be busy for a while. We'll keep an eye on it. Let's know what's happening through the morning. Talk to us on SpiceFM KE on X.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
27 minutes to 10 o'clock, and we continue this conversation this morning with the chairperson of the Youth Enterprise Development Fund. Fatma Barayan is our guest this hour. And as we look at the fund, one that many at the onset of, and we're just going through history here, and even before your time, Fatma, is that many were very excited about it, and then with some of the things that we saw, the delay and then the many requirements, and then now, as you're saying, some of those things sorted out, coming to the place whereby we're seeing more people then coming out and getting. What are some of the challenges that you have seen, that you have heard, why people still will say, okay, well, it's a great thing, but one of them, you talked about sharing information. You don't want people to know too much about you and what it is that you do, so the likelihood of you coming to the fund whereby I'll be asked questions then reduces my chances. What are some of those issues that you see?
Okay, I will confirm that Youth Fund is doing well. The only challenge we have is that whenever our team, the communication team, wants to record some of these success stories, first of all, it's so unfortunate that the youths do not want their stories to be told out there. Number one, because they're running away from care. I don't know why. Number two, the issue of black tax. Somebody will I wouldn't want the people from my village to know whatever I am doing. I don't know, the fear of witchcraft and all that. So, as youths,
those are real issues that are brought before.
Yes. And then you see the other challenge is, as a fund, we have assisted you to establish your enterprise and sustain it. And then it's so unfortunate that I don't know whether I should say this on air, but sour. It's so unfortunate that when the youths want to when the youths when we want to record those success stories, most of them even ask us to pay. And we cannot pay you because that's going to be a budget query. Like, why did you spend?
You've given them money to do well. Then
yes.
They want you to pay them. To tell their story.
Exactly.
Which is the success story, which is based on the money which you enable them to have.
Exactly.
Oh, that's interesting.
So you see, I will say youths. I'm also a youth, and I know how difficult it can be to deal with us. But I will say one step at a time. I am sure that everything is going to be.
No, but it's an interesting thing that you mention.
Yes.
It's not negative.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
And I am urging all the youths in this nation to change, because if you want to do business, you must be a risk taker, and you must comply with whatever provisions of the law that you're supposed to.
You see, if people are asking for money, it means they've understood.
Mm-hmm.
They are business minded.
Yes.
That we understand.
Yes.
But then do they understand their responsibility? Because this is almost like biting the hand that feeds you.
Mm-hmm.
If we have enabled you to be this, surely, why then should we pay you? Do they understand the concept of corporate social responsibility?
Exactly, that's the whole point. And I want to say this. It's funny that some of the times we call for these sensitization forums,
Yes.
and some the turnouts are good, but others are not that well. Why? Because we normally engage other stakeholders like KRA, other institutions within the government, the parastatals, just to come in and create awareness. Maybe officers who handle AGPO, officers from KRA, officers from Uwezo Women Fund, just to understand the opportunities that are within government. But the moment the youths hear about KRA, nobody wants to come to that. Oh, mimi sitaki kujulikana, such things.
So
sometimes I even wonder as a chair, where are we heading as a state? The youths today are going to be the leaders tomorrow.
No, this must be turned around, because what KRA does, they don't understand. Without KRA, even the funds that you give them would not exist.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And that is why most of them will use as an excuse that we have applied for this loan, but we've not gotten it in time. The reason why, if your documents are not as per required, because some of them deliberately fail to place that KRA pin in that application. So how then, or even the bank statement, so how then are we able to know that you're in compliance with the law for us to give you that credit, know? So it's a challenge to us, but we try to manage them. We try to create awareness, the importance of them paying the taxes, the importance of them in compliance with the law, the importance of them knowing that ignorance of the law is no defense. We try.
Let me ask this question. What is the age limit of the youth? Now, I'm not asking so that I can be considered. It doesn't matter how you stretch it, I cannot be referred to as a youth. Now, what is the age limit for the youth? That's question number one. Question number two, what is the limit? What's the minimal amount that the fund affords the applicants or can when they're successful? And what is the maximum amount that the fund affords successful applicants?
The age limit is 18 to 34, but for those who have transited to 35 years and onwards, like CT and DUB, probably, maybe, I'm not sure. If you're in a group that is registered and is willing to take youth fund, as long as your group, 70% of the leadership are youth, then you can benefit from it being a member. And we normally give from 100,000 to 20 million. But sometimes, if depending on the kind of project or the business you're doing, if you're doing so well, and we're checking from your records, from your statements, and even the business how viable it is, you don't need to start from 100. You can start from 300 onwards. Like, we have the Talanta loan. Instead of giving them, because we know in creative industry, with the equipment and all that, it gets quite expensive, and the production and all that. So sometimes we tend to give from 2 million. Yeah. Yeah.
What's the rate of payback of these loans?
Okay, initially it was at 6%, but now since we restructured, it's at 8%, because again, as a way of income generating and then again, 8% is still very reasonable compared to the banks and the other.
Okay, so that's the rate of interest that's charged.
And it's annually.
Okay.
Yeah.
But what's the rate of folks who take these loans and start to repay their loans? Do you find that most people are repaying their loans on time, or what's the rate of default kind of thing, I guess is where I'm going?
Okay, the recovery rates are very well, because you tend to find most of the counties they're at, I will say, 81% in terms of recovery. Though a few counties, there's challenges in some constituencies here and there, but the rate is really quite impressive. It's at 81%. Yes.
But then that is a good thing.
Right.
Yeah.
That is a very good thing, because if you have people who are compliant
Mm-hmm.
and they're in the majority, then what it then tells you is that these young people actually understand business.
Yeah, like I said, Youth Fund is a gem, and it's benefiting many youths in this country. The only challenge is that we try to improve on the visibility, but I have already explained some of the challenges we have with the youths not coming forth and showing what exactly we do also, because of the reasons I
in some of the areas where you have problems. What is it that the youth tell you their problems, where there's a low uptake of this, the availability of these funds?
Okay, I'll give an example of I earlier gave an example of the coastal and northeastern, the issue of interest. The other things will be you'll tend to have that within the group they cannot manage themselves. For example, if a group is of 10 people and they've already taken this loan, and then you'll tend to see that one of them had to maybe go out of the country to work, or the group is not I would say the group is not stable. We youths have a problem of what would I say? Like, if we are 10 of us and we've started a business, and then at some point the group is dismantled, and some problems come.
What makes you think that problem is only with the youth?
I will say that because through my observation is that most of the MSMEs, like I think in Kenya we have 98%, and around 31.7 being female owned, and around 44 thereabouts being male owned, and maybe 17% both women and men. But out of this, you will see that those SMEs that are owned by youths, most of them they fail, because there is no that culture of company. Like, somebody wants to do something just because they want to do it, or maybe also again because of the competition out there.
Is there room for a mentorship element to be introduced into this, where you attach that business, it is a youth business, but you have oversight of people who've been in business longer? Because the idea of giving youth money is an excellent one.
Yes.
The sooner people begin venturing into business, when they get older, they'll of course be better at it. And it's even better when they fail, because then they learn some very, very hard lessons, and which hopefully would help them into the future. It is far worse when somebody who is much older wants to start business. It's far, far worse.
In fact, I would want to agree with you. And some point, I normally, whenever I visit these counties, I try to see if we have either any group or an individual has a patron supervising, let me use the word supervising, on what they do. And I was really impressed when I was in Kirinyaga last year. There's a group which started a filling station. And in that group, we have youths and those who have passed that age. But like I said, also they benefited as members. So the members in this group who are older have been like supervising that group, and it was really impressive that through the leadership of these members who are seniors, the group has been able to buy their own land. They benefited from Youth Fund, started like a small filling station. They have now bought a huge lunch, but it is because of that supervision of their seniors in that group. So if we could be having most of the seniors coming and supporting the youths, and I really appreciate in that because our officers, before they engage these youths, it's through the chiefs, mzee wa mtaas, even the church elders, and we give loans to people who are known by the society, and it's even easier for us to reach out to them in terms when we want to do recoveries and we can't find them. So I will urge also the community to at least be supervising whatever their children, the youths in the society are doing. I think it can be used as a guidance, and also the youths to learn from the lived experience of the seniors, so that they can grow their enterprises.
How does the fund plug in to what the rest of government is doing in the country? Because when we talk about economic development and looking at a way in which you can develop actually young people for their business, how does this now plug in to that national agenda or that national policy?
It is through a creation of employment, because as a funder, like I mentioned, in every 100,000 we give, I believe that's 3 to 4 number of jobs created. So it contributes to the economy of this country through providing that credit facility, and it is through that a number of jobs are being created. Yes.
One of the things that I think probably gives you a problem as a youth fund is, yes, you may have people who have an interest in doing business because they've seen what business can do. But they actually don't understand what business really entails. Even when they choose a business, they don't understand that to be able to make this thing successful, there are certain things you must do. Okay? For instance, much as you say they mention the fee of KRA, at the end of every year, there has to be returns.
Yes.
They are just the structural necessities that a business must have. And a lot of these things require training. That is why earlier on I asked about the training opportunities. Now, there are government institutions that can do that for them.
Yes.
There are people who can help them understand this. And then even when they start a business and as they grow, there's the element of good governance that is required within businesses. Now, if they are to grow beyond what they think, these are things they must understand and they must be taught.
Yes.
Again, let me go back to the question again. When you set these things in motion, what is the success rate? And do you measure the success rate if you do? And what is the failure rate of some of the programs you have in sensitizing and educating the young people?
The success rate when we educate, I will say, is at around 73%.
Yes.
Yeah, and that is why, as a fund, we decided that we must work in synergy with other state corporations that fall within what we do. Like we have had engagements with KIE, we have had engagements with NEA, we have had engagements with the Ministry of MSME, and we have had stakeholders engagements with quite a number of the state corporations, just to ensure that we all come on board and try to create awareness to the youths on what is expected for them to benefit from this government. Yes.
Where do you see it going? If we look at future and the things that can actually be created, and you can draw a line and say, look, we've seen a rise in businesses, or we've seen a rise in the establishment of businesses as a result of the funding that young people, that youth have gotten from this fund. And again, you're looking at 18 to 35, right? And then there's a place where people can come together as a young business. Where do you see it? Where do you see it going in the future in terms of what it can actually do to establish economy building businesses as a result of this 5 billion, however much that's available at one time? Where do you see it going?
Okay, I see Youth Fund to be. I wouldn't want, from where it came from. I see it going to be very stabilized in a manner that it is a very more reasonable than it is now for the youth to access credit. I mean, the economy is dynamic, and each time we need to come up with new policies just to keep at par with the changes. And you might want to agree with me, every regime faces its own challenges. Like during the late Mzee Jomo Kenyatta's era, it was all about managing post-independence expectations. During the late Moi, it was all about managing HIV and trying to educate the youths. During the late former president Mwai Kibaki's, it was all about unemployment and illegal gangs. And the last president Uhuru Kenyatta, it was still unemployment, drug abuse and all that. And now President Williams Ruto, it's still unemployment and among other things, drug abuse, unemployment and the rest. So I will say that every now and then the economy keeps on changing, things arise, but as every institution, as a fund, we try to ensure that we prepare policies that we know that in the near future or in future are going to make sure that at least they solve some number of the expected changes that are going to take place. Yes.
How have you dealt with corruption issues at the fund?
Okay.
Whether that be historically before your time or now with certain things that may be said.
By digitizing our processes, everything right now, from the loan applications, the procurement processes, we have a system for that. So it is very well, it's transparent. And then again, with the introduction of the government's payment methods, I mean, that has really dealt with corruption. Yes.
One of the things that is always difficult is having a youth conversation. What the youth want. Even as we implement some of these programs, do you have an idea or do you have a process by which you determine or understand what it is that the youth prefer or how they would prefer certain things to be done?
CT, the youths are very dynamic. Even when you see, sometimes you tend to know that or believe that you're actually solving a problem for them. But even if you solve that problem, still you have not solved that problem. Like somebody will say, our main issues are to access to maybe IT facilities. But again, when you bring those IT facilities, this is just an example. When you bring those IT facilities, still they will tell you that we also have a problem with some other thing. I mean, the whole point here is that you can never solve the issues of, the problems of the youth. And that is why I said life is dynamic, economy is dynamic, and we must try and see we need to balance. You see, need to strike a balance.
Part of the question I'm asking is answered in your being here. For this reason, you're a youth.
Yes.
Yes. It is not polite to talk about a lady's age, and I will not talk about your age, but you are youthful. I can see that.
I am. Yes. I would probably say I'm 33.
You would probably say, okay.
Yeah, I am proudly. Okay. I'm proud to say I'm 33.
Okay.
Yes.
So it means, even as I asked the question as a youth, you would understand the problems that bedevil the generation better than I could.
Yes. And that is why I'm calling it a spade a spade.
Yes.
Yeah. For us to look to find solutions, we must accept reality. And that's our reality as youths. We have so many challenges. We can never be satisfied with whatever. But like I said, it's because life is dynamic, economy is dynamic, and we must try to strike a balance.
Not being satisfied is not necessarily negative.
It's not, but...
Could be that you're ambitious.
Yeah, and that is why we need to keep at par with our ambitions.
We do want an ambitious youth, because whether the current leaders or those who are in power like it or not, unless you die young, you will be old. And yes, and
you'll get there.
Yes, and when you're old, there are people who are younger who will take over some of the things that you used to do, whether you like it or not. That is what is going to happen.
Yes.
So isn't it desired that we spend a little more energy than we are currently in looking into the interests of the youth, because they're going to be in charge of this country at some point.
Yes, and we need to, because what we have is the time and energy and resilience. And you tend to see that one of the solutions we could have is innovation hubs. I mean technology. You'll tend to see that through technology, it is very... it is very easy and viable for the supply chains, and then again it is through technology that most of the youths spend most of the time and make a lot of money out of it. I mean, there are so many solutions to it. The only challenge in the community, in the society, is that you're expected as a leader to solve the problems. You have solved some of the problems, or maybe you have solved all, but still people feel like it's still not enough. Maybe there's a list of priority, and you're done with that list, but then people will still have they will still think that there's still more that needs to be done. And that is why this is as a result actually of what I earlier stated, that it is because life is dynamic, the economy is dynamic. So we are bound to expect these changes, but we must be ready for them. Yeah.
Okay. Just matters of clarification. With the Youth Enterprise Development Fund, there has also been the Hustler Fund.
Yes.
And of course there's looking into speculation as to whether the two have been collapsed into one, or whether they're still two separate entities, or who goes where. Can you give your clarification on that?
Okay, the Hustler Fund is doing a good job, but there's a difference between Hustler Fund and Youth Fund. For the Hustler Fund, it's basically help those that are in micro business. But you see, when a youth or anybody who is in a Hustler Fund and wants to grow to an SME, they'll tend to want more capital so that they can boost their business, and that is where we come in as Youth Fund. Again, for Youth Fund, we provide, like I earlier stated, that we provide marketing and linkaging support for these youths, and then again we also provide entrepreneurship skills. We take them through training. So there's a huge difference between Hustler Fund and but I like the fact that Hustler Fund encourages the culture of saving, and I so believe also through Youth Fund we do, because any youth who is doing a business, who has access credit from Youth Fund and does a business, also saves. Yes. Yeah. But the only thing I would maybe propose, there's a youth who recently engaged me. His name is John Mark, and he brought this brilliant idea. I am looking forward to see this idea being implemented. He mentioned about an emergency fund, that one thing that the Hustler Fund maybe needs to. The whole point was about anybody can access that fund from maybe I have forgotten my phone and I'm with you on a ride and I urgently need money. I could access it from your phone. So I linked him up with the CEO Hustler Fund. I am hoping that they've engaged, and we'll see
what happens. Okay, so even as we wrap this up, I mean, looking at what you encourage young people to do, I mean, still coming off where we started, where you said this is a gem.
Yes.
And there are very many young people, there are very many youth in the country who would need this for a business. What would you say to them today?
Okay. Allow me to talk in Swahili so that yule kijana mwenye yako mashinani aweze kufahamu kwamba kuna idara ya serikali inaitwa Youth Enterprise Development Fund, na ningehamasisha kwamba waweze kujitokeza kwa wingi, wachukue, na wanapochukua at least waweze kujitokeza na kuelezea faida waliopata kupitia Youth Fund, so that we can have the other youths also know more about Youth Fund and benefit from it. But also again, it is a revolving fund. Forget about what the elected leaders, some of them who will say that ni pesa yenu chukueni. Please, when you take this fund, please return the money so that it can benefit another youth and grow the economy of this nation.
Indeed.
Yes.
Good words, and thank you very much for being with us. I mean, just enlightening and opening up our minds to understand exactly what happens here.
Yes.
And then as a resource for many young people around the country. Thank you for being here this hour. Fatma Barayan is the chairperson of the Youth Enterprise Development Fund. She's been our guest this hour. Thank you for being here, and we look to further conversations in the future. Even as we bring things to a head on the conversation room on the Situation Room this morning, Kenya's biggest conversation, there have been a number of things that have been happening with flooding, and so just take a minute to tell you about what Nairobi traffic is telling us. There's been flooding in different parts of the country, road closures and flooding after heavy rains in many parts of the city. We're looking at Nairobi for this morning. Flooding, and I'm going to talk about a few of them. Lunga Lunga, avoid the area around KPLC depot due to flooding. Kahawa Sukari Road, expect flooding along this road. Limuru Road, flooding reported near the Belgian Embassy. Kamiti Road, flooding reported near Roysambu area. Lower Kabete Road, flooding reported near the Red Hill Bypass. Road closures, Moy Avenue, a tree fell this morning, so blocked a section of the road. Kibiko Road, Ngong, a bridge section is damaged and the road is closed. Aerodrome Road leading to Huru Highway, police have sealed off that road for an unspecified reason. Proceed with caution. This is what we're being told. Be aware of the possibility of flooding and falling debris. Adjust your speed and drive cautiously in wet conditions. If you encounter flooding, do not attempt to drive through it. Please find an alternate route. Traffic conditions can change rapidly. Check local news and traffic reports for the latest updates before you start your journey. Something to think about as you go into the day. Thank you very much for being part of this conversation every morning, and we'll be back again tomorrow. Take